And at 10, Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly is a clone of Peter Parker, the famed Spider-Man, created by the villainous Jackal. Ben assumed the identity of Scarlet Spider after separating himself from Peter's world for 5 years, and upon returning to New York to aid Peter's sick Aunt May, he reunited with Peter and became his ally. Later on though, while Peter was away, Ben encountered a man named Gus, who mistook him for Peter because, you know, they're clones, and demanded payment for an unknown debt. Ben denied that he was in fact Peter because he was, but he also wasn't, you know, but Gus continued to harass him. Then, some time later, Ben, along with someone named Janine, who is now known as Hallows Eve, ended up living in limbo with this Gus man. And then of course, because you know, how else are you supposed to have a hero turned villain origin story, Gus continued to harass Ben, leading to him being beat up and then being brought to the Goblin Queen. And by that I mean Ben beat up Gus and then brought Gus to the Goblin Queen. After Madeline consumed Gus's soul, Ben declared his intention to consume Peter Parker's soul. Yeah, that's a thing that has happened. But like, also just look at the monster that is now known as King Chasm. It's a freaking powerhouse, okay? That thing is terrifying and I want to be him so badly. Okay, I know that also he's like technically a villain and that's why he'd be at 10 on this list instead of higher, but since Ben was a hero, was a Spider-Man, I think that it's allowed. Plus, it's not like you can do anything about it now. It's already on the list. You can't reverse the edit. I'm sorry, YouTube doesn't have that feature yet.
Number 9, Power Girl. I mean, all of the Super family have recently got somewhat of a makeover with their new looks, Power Girl included. Now they all wear matching jackets. Power Girl likewise has a new look that features a full one-piece bodysuit with a new Super family matching jacket. Fits right in. She also got some new powers as well, being affected like many others by the Lazarus volcanoes that were like spewing all over the planet. There's just Lazarus raining down everywhere. Power Girl was given psionic abilities during the event, which is quite different for her, going from being a physical powerhouse to a psionic rookie, honestly, to start. Personally, I'm more of a fan of Kara's classic look, but I do like the idea of the Super family all having a piece of clothing that they share, and I always love a good team jacket look, so I'm definitely here for the jacket part at least. Still, I feel like you could alternatively do this with, you know, the S logo that they all wear or matching capes. Power Girl not only got a new look and a new power set here, but she also got a new partner in heroism as well, teaming up with Omen.
And at 8, Ben 10. Ah, look at that, 2 Bens on this list. Or dare I say, 11 Bens. Because Ben 10 is a popular American animated TV series that originally started running in 2005. The show features the adventures of a 10-year-old boy named Ben Tennyson, yeah that's actually his name, who discovers an alien device called the Omnitrix. The Omnitrix allows Ben to transform into various alien creatures, originally with 10, hence the name, each with its own unique set of abilities, powers, and weaknesses. And then throughout the series, Ben and his friends, Gwen and then later in a sequel series Kevin, face off against various villains who seek to use the Omnitrix for their own purposes and just normal run-of-the-mill bad guys like a dude who is mutating animals at one point. But along the way, Ben uses these alien powers and learns how to actually work with them to help others, protect the planet, and ultimately become a hero. It also spawned multiple spin-offs, movies, and video games, cementing its place as a beloved franchise. And personally, I love Ben 10, and I have a Ben 10 jacket. I can't wear it on camera because it's green, which sucks because I love the jacket. But I mean, in 2023, he has like the look of his most recent series, which seems to be the 2014 Ben 10 Omniverse, which has a cartoon style I don't really vibe with, but hey, Ben 10 is still iconic. Or if you want to go a different route, you can go with the Ben 10,000 way of thinking, since Ben 10,000 just has 10,000 different aliens in his Omnitrix, but that actually takes place in 2025, which means that he would look relatively the same this year. There you go. I just wanted to talk about Ben 10, okay?
Number 7, Ghostmaker. Ghostmaker is surprisingly one of my new favorite characters to come out of Batman comics, and initially when he first was shown to us, I was like, nah, Ghostmaker sounds kinda lame. But now, wow, I really love him. He is the old friend and rival of Bruce Wayne's who trained alongside him back before he really was even Batman. Min-Kwa Khan also wanted to become a vigilante, but whereas Batman often develops connections to those around him and very much has roots in Gotham, Min-Kwa as Ghostmaker travels the world, remaining detached and attempting to clean up city after city as he goes. which is why he comes to Gotham and also feels, following Joker War, that he could do a better job than Bruce could as the city's protector. Although he starts out as an antagonist, over time he comes to respect Bruce and eventually chooses to fight alongside him instead of against him, despite their different approaches to vigilantism. He first appeared in October of 2020 in Batman issue number 100 from the current volume started in 2016 that of course is still ongoing. Number 6. Wonder Woman / Girl. Wonder Girl. You know? Yara Flor is our future state Wonder Woman. When Diana gets a glimpse into the possible future in Dark Knight's Death Metal issue number 7, it is Yara who she sees carrying on the mantle of Wonder Woman. Yara is not an Amazon from Themyscira. Instead, she is an Amazon of the Amazon rainforests of Brazil, being from a different tribe basically than Diana is, but still an Amazon. In the future state reality, Yara was considered to be a demigod. Yara Flor's Wonder Woman initially appeared in Dark Knight's Death Metal issue number 7 in January of 2021. She was created by Joelle Jones and would later be incorporated into the main continuity of Prime Earth and get a short-lived comic series all her own titled Wonder Girl, which takes place prior to Yara becoming Wonder Woman. Although now what happened in Future State is questionable as some things have already changed, meaning that exact potential future likely won't come to pass. But you know, Yara could still end up as Wonder Woman at some point. I would believe it. Number 5. Dee Dee. Dee Dee was a short-lived hero who appeared as a new Gotham City siren during Future State. With everything up in the air in regards to how the world will evolve and develop and which parts of the potential future that is Future State will get incorporated into the narrative, I don't actually know if we'll ever see Dee Dee again. But she was a pretty cool character and a great addition to the Gotham City Sirens. While not always the most heroic group, here the Femme Fatales were actually doing good in this story. Dee Dee was an android who first appeared in Future State The Next Batman issue number 2 in the Gotham City Sirens story within there. Dee Dee joined up with Catwoman and Poison Ivy in an attempt to take down and expose her creator, Dax Dilton, which could both save the world and help the Resistance, who stand against the oppressive magistrate in this world. Dee Dee made her first appearance in January 2021. Number 4. Swamp Thing. While Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, once known as scientist Alec Holland, is the most well-known Swamp Thing, he's not the only one to have taken up the mantle and role of the Avatar of the Green. We actually have a new Swamp Thing in the comics as of Infinite Frontier issue number 0. This is Levi Kamai from India, who developed a connection to the Green and became its new young avatar. He shares similar powers to Swamp Thing Alec Holland before him, but is still getting a handle on these newfound abilities. He was created by Ram V and Mike Perkins. Levi made his first appearance in the comics in March of 2021. Number 3. Flatline. Flatline is a tricky one to nail down when it comes to her alignment. She isn't really a hero, but she isn't really like a straight up baddie either. Sure, she's been the sidekick of the villain Lord Deathman, but she reads to me as kind of ambivalent to the whole idea of, you know, like good versus evil. I don't think she really subscribes to either ideology, but she also does run with a generally good guy most of the times, Damian Wayne, which means that if I had to place her anywhere on the spectrum, I'd be more likely to classify her currently as an anti-hero. Or, you know, like an anti-hero sidekick maybe? I don't know. She is known for being Damian Wayne's love interest. Her powers allow her to adopt the skills, or at least a portion of the skills, of anyone who she kills or who is basically near her when they die. She first appeared in Detective Comics in issue 1034 in March 2021. Number 2. Jay Nakamura. While not technically a superhero yet, Jay has been revealed to at least have superpowers, and he's dating a superhero, so it seems likely that Jay may soon become a superhero himself. He made his first appearance in Superman Son of Kal-El, issue number 2. Jay is an online media reporter who runs a journalistic website called The Truth, and already uses a codename as part of that group and site. His codename is Gossamer, which is fitting since his powers actually revolve around intangibility and invisibility. He can phase through things and can make himself appear at least partially invisible. Jay first appeared in DC in August of 2021. Number 1. Dreamer. The first transgender superhero on television who recently made her way to the pages of DC Comics. Naya Nal is a superhero character who first appeared in Supergirl Season 4, Episode number 1, American Alien. She is based off of DC's Dream Girl, Nura Nal, and is also depicted as being Nura's ancestor. Naya Nal was created by Robert Rovner and Jessica Keller for the Supergirl live-action CW series. Her powers come from her Naltorian ancestry, being half Naltorian and half human. She can travel through dreams to get to someone, teleporting in essence to a person through their dreams, and can also manipulate one's dreams as well as astral project and project energy too. She is also a seer of sorts. Dreamer made her first appearance in the comics in the DC Pride 2022 special in June of 2022.
Number 10. Batman vs. Bigby. You know Batman, but have you ever read or heard of the Fable series? It's one of my favorite comic series. It basically follows classic fairy tale characters living in modern day New York. The Big Bad Wolf, otherwise known as Bigby Wolf, is the sheriff of their community. In 2021, we got the limited DC Black Label series Batman vs. Bigby, a wolf in Gotham, which is a collaboration between these two comic worlds, with Bigby as a main suspect for murders in Gotham. If you like the Fables world and you like Batman, you'll love this little mashup. Number 9. JSA The Liberty Files. The Justice Society of America, The Liberty Files, is a DC Elseworlds story from 2000 to 2003, which makes it non-canonical. Any story that lets writers go outside the rules of the DC canon always makes for stories that I personally love. Alright, so what's it about? The series took characters from the JSA, but turned them into covert government operatives in World War II. Specifically, the story centered on 3 heroes: Batman, called Bat, Hourman, called Clock, and Dr. Midnight, called Owl. I know, really creative names. The 3 were known as the Unholy 3, and their mission, at least in the Part 1 story, is to find Jack the Grin, who is the Joker, who has information about the German weapon Übermensch, or Superman. Are you sold yet? Number 8. Earth 15. Earth 15 first appeared in 2007 in Countdown number 30. This Earth was basically a perfected Earth with heroes who evolved to become nearly perfect beings, with most of the proteges like Jason Todd, Donna Troy, Zod, and Kyle Rayner taking over the original heroes' roles. That is, until the events of Flashpoint, when it was destroyed by the crazed Superboy Prime. That little rascal. The still existing dimension became a graveyard universe, eventually being modified by Hal Jordan into an Earth whose heroes had personalities opposite to the Prime Earth versions. It's an interesting place for sure, and some interesting things have happened in it. Check it out. Number 7. Bolt. Going along with the hype of the live-action Black Adam movie, DC decided that they would also put out a Black Adam solo series for the first time. And in the first issue, it puts Black Adam on the ropes of mortality. In response to this, Black Adam finds his descendant, Malik Adam White, a medical student living in the Bronx. Basically, Black Adam just tells this guy he is going to succeed Black Adam and inherit his power, and then he forces him to do so by almost taking his life, forcing the guy to save himself by taking Black Adam's ring and saying Shazam. While Black Adam calls Malik White Adam, Malik gives a good little lecture about the inherent racism there, so he prefers to go by Thunderbolt or just straight up Bolt. Now from what I've read, I really like this character. He's smart and spunky, and he is supposed to represent a sort of form of redemption for the character of Black Adam because, as they say in the comic, there is no true redemption for Black Adam, not after all he's done. Number 6. Duo. Recently, DC Comics has announced that they are relaunching Milestone, and that's exciting because we haven't seen much of their characters like Icon, Static, and Rocket in a hot minute, and I love all of them. What's interesting is that instead, we got a wholly new character, or characters, in the form of Duo. This new addition to Earth M follows Dr. David Kim and Dr. Kelly Vu, who get fused together in a crazy accident, which is slightly reminiscent of the DC character Firestorm, but this is different. For one, they look way cooler in my opinion. But the comic follows the pair learning more about each other and their newfound powers based on nanotech that include the ability to heal almost instantly, making them essentially immortal, the ability to interface with technology, metamorphosis, density control, and more as time goes on and they find further control. Duo is potentially one of the most powerful beings from Milestone if things keep going the way they're going, and I highly recommend checking out their story. Number 5. Bat Prince. This alternate version of Batman belongs to probably one of my favorite alternate reality stories to come out of DC Comics, Dark Knights of Steel. This story takes place in a world of medieval fantasy where the Wayne family ruled their kingdom until the mother and father of Superman came to Earth. The L family house became rulers of the land after a horrible attack on the Wayne family. Now, as the surviving son of the Waynes, Bruce serves as both a knight and son to the L family with his network of Robins and his brilliant mind. But as the world is at each other's throats, this Bat Prince learns about the actions that led to his birth and the powers he now possesses as a half-Kryptonian Dark Knight. Dark Knights of Steel that came out last year in 2022 just has so many interesting and fresh takes on classic DC characters. It's fresh and fun, and I got a variant cover of the first issue and it looks sweet! And maybe one day I'll bring it in to show you guys. Maybe. But definitely read Dark Knights of Steel. Number 4. Tim Fox. Timothy Jace Fox is the oldest son of Wayne Enterprises CEO Lucius Fox and the brother of Lucas Fox, Tamara Fox, and Tiffany Fox. He has a long history of estrangement from his father and rebels against the affluent surroundings he grew up in. While he was a bit of a rebel and a playboy for a long while, Tim found himself being brought back to reality after he caused the passing of a man while driving distracted. Following the shame of this and his enrollment at Sanford Military Academy, he went off into the world refining his skills with different mentors, the most well known of whom being Katana and his best friend Vol. Tim became a revolutionary and a mercenary, taking on the new name of Jace. Eventually he returned to Gotham, and even later he eventually discovers the Hibernaculum, which I hope I'm pronouncing right. It's a giant armory that also contained a prototype bat armor. He takes the Hibernaculum as his base of operations, and in a last-ditch effort to prevent a massacre, he dons the bat armor. Now, after a failed initial debut as Batman, he goes back to the drawing board and creates himself a new suit and becomes the official new Batman. Official new Batman, but there's also the regular Batman still. I don't know. He's been a little anti-joining up with pretty much anyone, not a member of the Bat family, and refusing Jonathan Kent's offer to join the new Justice League, and I'm kind of curious what will become of his character as time goes on, because nothing's really happening. Coming in at number 3, it's Tempest. Eva Bell first was seen in All New X-Men #1 in 2012, when we also saw her mutant powers manifest. She was out with friends and a boy when her brother showed up and began to get into a fight with that boy. The stress and duress of the situation caused her powers to pop off, and she completely froze everyone within a city block of her in time for 20 hours until the X-Men showed up, helped her, and then took her in. She's been referred to as near Omega level with her ability of chronokinesis within a time bubble, meaning she can freeze and slow down time and is one of the best at it in the world. She can also speed up time in the bubble by decades if she chooses to, which is why she is a member of the Five to age up whoever is being resurrected. And she can even time travel. Although she has shown to lose control over this power from time to time, there is no doubt she is and can become more incredibly powerful. Number 2. Elixir. Joshua Foley, otherwise known as Elixir, is a mutant with Omega level healing abilities. He's incredibly powerful, and while originally was just considered a general threat, he can actually use his powers offensively as well, completely ending lives if he wants to. Using his mutant ability of biokinesis, Elixir is capable of controlling the biological structure of his own and other people's bodies down to the genetic level. Now, this started off small, but has grown to allow him to simultaneously heal dozens of people, resurrect himself and others, and even the ability to control, manipulate, and absorb the life forces of other living creatures. Offensively, he can use his death touch to harm others, to cause different types of illness, massive swellings, and organ failure. He's even completely destroyed the body of enemies before. He is one of the core members of the Five, as I'm sure no one is surprised about, and he has been a member of the X-Men ever since he was one of the only surviving mutants who retained his powers at the Xavier Institute after M-Day, and he was trained to become one in 2006's New Mutants. Number 1. Hope Summers. Hope Summers was the first mutant born after the events of M-Day, the mutant decimation, or the day that Scarlet Witch cast No More Mutants. She was then taken into the far future and raised by Cable, being carried around in the coolest baby Bjorn you'll ever see. Not too long after, she returned to the present and her mutant powers finally activated. Her power is basically that of Omega level power manipulation. She can manipulate the powers of other mutants nearby to her, even mimicking their powers, but at full capacity and with complete control over those powers. And she can even take on multiple powers at once, but it is pretty tiring for her to do that. A large part of her role in the Krakoan society is as the leader of the Five, who use their abilities to resurrect the mutants of Krakoa. Her role on the Five specifically is both to boost their powers to their full potential and help them work in synergy with each other perfectly. She also helped terraform Mars alongside Vulcan and Proteus, giving them enough power to actually do it. She is such a cool character, and she first appeared back in X-Men Volume 2 number 205 in 2008, but was a child for much of that until she came of age and joined X-Force and the X-Men. Coming in at number 10, it's Pickles. I think his name alone just made me want to include him on this list. Pickles is what is known as a Banff, a race of demons who are basically little Nightcrawler-like imps, who possess similar attributes and powers as Nightcrawler and Azazel. Pickles himself lived inside Beast's van and was a backup in case case anyone needed immediate transport somewhere. But he would later travel with Jean Grey and the X-Men in Jean Grey #1 from 2017. As a Banff, Pickles can teleport by displacing himself into the Brimstone dimension, travel through it, and then return to the original dimension at a certain distance from the point of departure. But unlike Nightcrawler, Pickles doesn't require foreknowledge of his destination in order to safely teleport there. But much like Nightcrawler, Pickles can stick to objects with the surface of his hands and feet, and he's got a sweet little prehensile tail. This little imp also possesses an unknown degree of muscle memory mimicry, which enables him to quickly learn and perform new martial arts with little instruction or training. He's definitely one of those few minor X-Men characters, but he's just so cute. Number 9. Gazing Nightshade. First appearing in X-Men Blue #6 in June of 2017, the Madripoor mutant calling herself Gazing Nightshade was part of a ruthless mutant vigilante group who were inspired by Wolverine called the Raksha. The group was stopped by Jimmy Hudson and the X-Men and eventually were invited to the X-Mansion. Gazing Nightshade has the really cool mutant ability of despair inducement, meaning whoever Nightshade gazes upon enters into a trance-like state of sorrow, fueled by their deepest regrets. And to make it just 10 times more metal, both the eyes of Gazing Nightshade's victims and her own eyes bleed when she uses her powers. I mean, that's not the coolest thing. She joins Polaris' makeshift roster of X-Men in X-Men Blue #25 in 2018 before going back to the Raksha. Number 8. Trini. Shilpa Khatri first showed up in 2018's X-Men Red #1 as a new mutant joining Jean Grey's team of X-Men. Shilpa was a young mutant from India who developed technopathic mutant abilities, and first used them to top up the bank accounts of every working Indian woman using the money from 25 of the biggest earning CEOs in India. That's pretty cool. And while I think that's awesome and kind of hilarious, her father did not, and he reported his own daughter to the Indian Mutant Defense Force, which is where Jean Grey and her team rescued Trini from. As a technopath, she has the ability to psychically control all forms of technology, such as computers, cell phones, and all that junk. Her limitation at this time is that she can only control technology that is in her line of sight, and her range is currently undetermined, but judging from other technopaths, she has potential to get much stronger. It just remains to be seen. Number 7. Gabby Kenny. We included Laura Kinney on the last list, so is it cheating to use her clone? I personally say no, because Gabrielle Kinney, aka Honey Badger and recently Scout, is just awesome. Like a little feisty killing machine with adamantium bone sickles and crazy regenerative healing factor, and that also improves her strength, speed, and stamina. Gabby first appeared in All New Wolverine #2 in 2015, and she had a long history that, just like her other clone sisters, intertwined a lot with Laura, her genetic sister, and Wolverine, her genetic father. As Honey Badger, Gabby was seemingly a favorite of her sister, and basically became a sidekick to Laura Kinney, joining Jean Grey's X-Men alongside her sister in X-Men Red #1 in 2018. While Laura went on to become the new Wolverine, Gabby would go on to become Scout, and one of the main Wolverine family members. Oh, also her and Jonathan the Unstoppable, an actual Wolverine, like the animal, shared an immediate bond, and he is basically her pet, which is both really cool and kind of hilarious. Number 6. Darkhold Universes. Earth 21129, Earth 42222, Earth 52433, Earth 64211, and Earth 37640. Now, this one point is actually going to cover multiple different alternate Earths in one, because they are all part of the same event. The Darkhold is basically a codex written on flesh by the elder god Chthon of all his evil works and spells. There is a stone transcription and a series of scrolls that act as the same thing. But when the true Darkhold was found by Victorious and Dr. Doom, it opened a pathway between the other world and our world, and awoke Chthon in preparation for the coming conflict and to temper them with madness, which is just the dumbest idea I've ever heard of. Victorious and Scarlet Witch had Iron Man, Blade, Wasp, Black Bolt, and Spider-Man all read from the book. The problem was they read too far, were corrupted, and saw horror story versions of their lives, resulting in 5 alternate realities and 5 2021 stories you need to read. Number 5. Earth TRN 891, Dark Ages. In the alternate Earth TRN 891, After a battle with an ancient, powerful, galaxy-attacking robot that was trapped inside the Earth billions of years ago called the Unmaker, Doctor Strange opened a portal to create an EMP that would defeat the Unmaker. This worked, but Strange died before he could close the portal. This resulted in a huge EMP that shut off all electricity on Earth. This led to various wars in the post-apocalypse, killing billions of people. Eventually, things calmed down and people lived in various different communities, surviving against attacks from vampires and werewolves. In Europe, however, the mutant apocalypse had taken over, and using brainwashed geniuses from around the world began attempting to reawaken the Unmaker for his own villainous deeds. Number 4. Bloodline. In the J.J. and Henry Abrams written storyline from 2019, Mary Jane Watson is killed by a villain known as Cadaverous, after Spider-Man is swarmed and beaten pretty badly by his minions. 12 years later, the story has a one-armed version of Peter Parker, who is now the honestly pretty bad single father of Ben Parker, Peter and Mary Jane's son. After Cadaverous returns out of hiding and kidnaps Peter to use his blood for his evil plans, it is up to the new Spider-Man, Ben Parker, with the help of his friend Faye Ito, and old Tony Stark and Riri Williams to fight Cadaverous and his minions, which includes a cyber-zombified team of Avengers. Look guys, in this reality, YouTube has this algorithm thing, right? And when you like and subscribe to us, it signals to the YouTube overlords that we are worthy of being seen by all you lovely people and new people, helping us grow and continue to pump out videos like this one. So I just want to say thanks for doing that for us. We appreciate every like and subscribe you drop. Okay, on to the top 3. Number 3. Earth TRN 852, Heroes Reborn. When Phil Coulson sold his soul to Mephisto in the 2021 event Heroes Reborn, he was given an object called the Pandemonium Cube, which he used to warp reality, creating the alternate world of TRN 852. Here, the Avengers were never assembled, instead replaced by the Squadron Supreme of America, which consisted of the heroes Hyperion, Nighthawk, Power Princess, Blur, Dr. Spectrum, and Skymax. Tony Stark never created the Iron Man armor, Carol Danvers never became a hero, Captain America remained a capsicle, and the Hulk was banished to the negative zone. After the Earth 616 version of Blade ended up on this Earth, he began assembling the Avengers again, starting with Captain Popsicle. Number 2. Earth 001, home of the Inheritors. First appearing in Superior Spider-Man number 33 in September 2014, Earth 001, or Loom World, is home to the Inheritors, who are a clan of very strong beings who hunt and feed upon the life force of animal totems, specifically spider totems, meaning all the Spider-Man and women of the Marvel multiverse. Loom World is also the home to the Master Weaver and the Web of Life and Destiny, which is basically a model of the entire universe and allows for travel to different realities. The Web of Life and Destiny and the Master Weaver were captured by the Inheritor family, who used it to hunt various Spider-Man. The event this takes place in is an awesome one, and if you get the chance, I highly suggest that you give it a read. Number 1. Earth 15513, There Was Nothing, followed by everything. Swirling, burning specks of creation that circled life-giving suns. God, Doom, created the light. Then there was Earth. The firmament cooled and he raised up a land, this holy land, the world, and upon it he set his kingdoms. Earth 15513, also known formerly as Battle World, and more recently as Battle Realm, is where God Emperor Doom created his new world, using the power of the Beyonders after the destruction of the multiverse in the 2015 Secret Wars event. After the final battle between God Emperor Doom and Mr. Fantastic, Battleworld was destroyed and became the center of the new multiverse. The remaining reality became Battle Realm, where the Elders of the Universe, the Grand Master and the Collector, held the contest of champions. But coming in at number 10 is Red Canary. The Black Canary is one of the coolest female heroes in the DC universe. She may fly under the radar for a few people, but she has made a name for herself as a powerful hero and a fierce fighter. So, when the new legacy character of Red Canary showed up on the scene, she had some big shoes to fill. The thing is, She's so new, appearing in Dark Crisis issue number 3 in October 2022, that we kind of know nothing about her. We know her first name is Sienna, and we know she is a college student. She responded to Nightwing's call after the passing of the Justice League, and she fought in the mission that went out into the multiverse, but we don't even know her powers. We can assume that they're at least similar to Black Canary's, but I don't even want to say that because we just simply do not know. What we can say is that she absolutely has potential if her first appearances saw her jump into a multiversal battle. Only time will tell, but she looks cool as hell though. Number 9. Monkey Prince. First appearing in DC Festival of Heroes, the Asian Superhero Celebration number 1 from July 2021, Monkey Prince is the son of the legendary Monkey King, Sun Wukong from Chinese folklore. Because of this, Monkey Prince, aka Marcus' son, is essentially a demigod, born in the Phantom Zone. But he had no idea of this. He was taken in by criminals Winston and Laura Shugul Shen, and he grew up with them, with the two surprisingly making good parents despite the fact that they were running around working for different criminals in Gotham City. When Marcus was a kid, he was woken up during a thunderstorm in the middle of the night to find his parents being interrogated by Batman. Interrogated with his fists, because that's the Batman way. This gave Marcus a fear of thunderstorms, rain, and water, and Batman, plus a hatred for superheroes. Which is funny because once his powers were awoken by a servant of his Monkey King father, granting him an insanely cool form of immortality and regeneration, the ability to summon clouds that he can fly on, clone creation, shapeshifting, underwater breathing, and the superhero starter pack of physical upgrades, he did indeed become a superhero. He's a really unique character with a ton of storytelling potential, and he's already teamed up with a few characters like Batman, Aquaman, and a few others. Definitely check him out. And at number 8 is Grey Wolf. Okay, so apparently Lex Luthor was running crime-fighting experiments around the world trying to create a group of his own similar to Batman Incorporated, with the ultimate goal of creating Abyss, aka his new evil Batman. He then abandoned all these projects because that's what you do when you're a villain. The projects went wild, doing their own thing, causing problems all over. So, Batman Incorporated's international team, being led by Ghostmaker, are sent to clean up the mess in Batman 2022 Annual Volume 3, number 1 from July. Their first mission is to Kazbek, Chechnya to take on Grey Wolf. Now Grey Wolf was unleashed on the city to help its citizens who had been exposed to a Lazarus resin by Lex Luthor that made them all extremely violent. Once the Ghostmaker realized that Grey Wolf was actually a pretty good guy, they teamed up and were able to cure the residents, and Grey Wolf joined Batman Inc. as a good guy and possibly one of the strongest members outside of Ghostmaker himself. He displayed enough skill to best Dark Ranger, El Gaucho, and Batman of Japan in a 3-on-1 fight, and he beat Wingman 1-on-1. Also, he's like 7 feet tall minimum. So cool. Number 7. Earth 20. Earth 20, which appeared in Final Crisis Superman Beyond number 1 in 2008, is the home of Kent Nelson, otherwise known as Doc Fate. And he is so cool. Basically, he leads a society of superheroes on Earth 20, which is a group that includes Lady Blackhawk, Immortal Man, the Green Lantern, the Mighty Atom, and Batman from time to time. The history of this world isn't exactly very well known, but we do know it has just come out of a war that is somewhat like World War II. There are Zeppelins flying around in some cities, and the cars are all big and beautiful. It's got a very slick 20s style. The heroes of this world would do righteous battle against a society of supervillains from Earth 40 and a huge 5-year war. My goodness. Number 6. Batman White Knight. I cannot recommend this 2017 story enough to you guys. It is an insanely interesting and fantastic Joker story. It takes place in an alternate Gotham City, and the Joker regains his sanity after a brutal and violent forced ingestion of a medicine by Batman. The roles are practically reversed, as the seemingly reformed Joker, real name Jack Napier, becomes the White Knight, hoping to better Gotham City as a politician, while also condemning Batman as an unhinged violent vigilante. Which, I mean, it's kinda hard to argue against that point of view. He sued the GCPD for police brutality, and he worked against the 1%, who used Batman and Gotham's crime for their own financial benefit. Joker actually becomes a good guy. It's kind of insane. But there is more to this story, and I highly suggest you check it out. Number 5. Earth 14. Alright, this is gonna be a pretty quick one. There is not a whole heck of a lot of information out there about Earth-14, which first appeared in Superman Volume 4, number 15 in 2017. I want to talk about it because the Justice League of Assassins is just the coolest looking version of the Justice League I have ever seen, even if it was just for a short period of time. The Assassins are made up of alternate heavy weapon bearing versions of Wonder Woman, Batman, Harley Quinn, Flash, Aquaman, what looks like it could be Green Lantern, and Superman. They only last about 3 pages of the comic they are a part of, but I really hope we see them pop up in other stories because these guys are just so rad. All we saw them do was fight a bunch of gatherers in a post-apocalypse looking Earth. Number 4, Batman 89. Okay, you can fight me in the comments about this one. Batman 89 was published in 2021, but the stories take place in the Tim Burton Batman movies world. Seeing how we haven't actually seen a comic in this world, I'm gonna take this one, okay? Cool. So yes, this is that Batman and Bruce Wayne in this comic. He has the same suit from the movie, the same amazing Batmobile, and it takes place after the events of the movies, but it's more like comic heavy. It's really cool. We see Harvey Dent actually become Two-Face, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman is back, and we even get a Robin for this universe. It's so awesome. I don't want to spoil too much, so you can probably guess what I'm gonna say. Go give it a read. Number 3, DC vs. Vampires. The ongoing DC vs. Vampires limited series that started in 2021 is such an amazing story. It just makes sense. Pit the characters of the DC universe against a growing army of vampires? A mystery around who the superhero vampire leader is? It's great! The basic premise, without spoiling much, is that Mary, Queen of Blood, who upholds the peace between vampires and humans, is dead. Whoever killed her also killed the Legion of Doom, and has made a plan for vampires to take over the world. Andrew Bennett, a vampire, went to the Justice League to tell them about the army of vampire supervillains. There's a vampire Gorilla Grodd, like, come on. The story has a large Batman and Bat family presence, as a story about vampires should, and for a story so grim, it actually has some really funny moments. Especially from Damian Wayne, as I'm sure no one is surprised by. Number 2, DC Bombshells. DC Comics Bombshells is an awesome story from 2015 that focuses on a reality where a team of female superheroes fight on the side of the Allies during World War II. It actually first came to be because of a line of statuettes released by DC with superheroines wearing retro 40s inspired costumes. They were so popular that they moved to variant covers and then they got their own series. Each hero has their own style and story while still all being part of this bigger, wider alternate World War II story. It's truly awesome and mainly follows Batwoman, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Stargirl, Zatanna, and the Batgirls. Go give it a little gander, would you? Number 1, Dark Knights of Steel. And now for my favorite. Dark Knights of Steel. Swords, sorcery, superheroes. Dark Knights of Steel is a story that actually came out this year, that's 2022 if you're watching this from the future, but is set in an alternate medieval fantasy universe. Batman is an actual knight and half Kryptonian. Like, I'm just in love. Okay, so basically, Jor-El and Lara escape Krypton before it is destroyed and crash land on the medieval Earth, and eventually become the rulers of the land after giving birth to Kal-El. It's wild. There are alternate versions of Green Lantern, Supergirl, Harley Quinn, Robins, Alfred, Constantine, Green Arrow, Joker, Green Lantern, Black Lightning, and more. I love to see comic book publishers do these time-displaced stories. It's great.
Number 10, Liar Liar. Emma Duropoulos. Okay, this chick is badass right off the hop. She first appeared in Wonder Woman 759. She's the long-lost daughter of Maxwell Lord, and growing up, Emma's mother Susan kept the fact that her father was still alive from her. Now, she did find out eventually, but her mother insisted that he died of cancer, never even telling Emma his real name. And on top of that, Emma was growing into her powers, and her mother also ignored those. She didn't believe that she had powers until one day Emma showed her an up-close look at them. She made her mother collide with an oncoming truck, and sadly Emma was the only survivor. Next step was to break her father out of jail and earn his trust by, of course, helping him take down Wonder Woman. Emma used her psychic wave manipulation powers and combined them with Maxwell Lord's previous latest passion project, a weapon called Odysseus. So now Emma can cause any user to hallucinate. Her dad even makes fun of her for this, calling her a child, some sort of millennial superhero joke, I guess, I don't know. I mean, she almost blasted off a nuke in Arizona, so you better watch your mouth, Maxwell. Number 9, Symar Utopica. First appearing in Superman issue 25 just last year in Mythological Part 1, the Symar are an alien species who witnessed the destruction of Krypton. In fact, they saw young Kal-El zipping through space, and they discussed the possibility of intercepting. They're like, who is this kid? Where is he heading? Earth? What's on Earth? There's nothing there. Yeah, apparently we're too primitive to be part of their defense registrar, which is neat. I didn't know this was a roast. Awesome. So cut 2 years later, Clark has grown up. Now the Symar, still watching from the cosmic bushes, they decide, you know what, they need to elect their own leader to go toe-to-toe with Superman if need be. Enter Eisno Alcor, a soldier for the Symar. He showed promise, so they chose him to be their weapon against the Kryptonian. That was their original intention for the young soldier. But Superman was deemed a hero on Earth, so the Symar thought, maybe we should just chill out. He's clearly doing a good job. We'll keep an eye on him though still, but for sure he's not a threat. So they decided, let's just send Eisno out to do other stuff regardless. Deal, sounds good. Eventually Eisno got back from a mission and there was this big celebration, a big party, but he finally asked his superior why he's the only hero on his home world. And President Dreddy finally explained that he was initially picked to fight Superman, but he turned out to be a protector, so we just used him instead for other missions in the galaxy. So Eisno is feeling confused. He's like, Superman, who is this guy? What? So he leaves the party, he's deep in thought, then all of a sudden, while he's busy being sad in the cornfield, all of his friends and crew are attacked back at the party. So he gets back, everybody's toast, and there's pics of Superman all around. So now he has a reason to attack Superman. You gotta love those super misunderstandings. Always a good one. Before we continue on with this list, you know the drill. If you want to go ahead and hit that like button, it helps us out quite a bit here at the studio, and then in turn, we can bring some nerdy news back into your eyes and soul. So hit that like button, and then we can bring you some good stuff. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the list. Number 8, Punchline. Alexis K entered DC Comics only a year ago, right after Harley Quinn finally left the Joker. In Harley's animated series, we see them part ways in the first episode. Birds of Prey as well, we get to focus on Harley's life post-Joker. It's been a long time coming, and fans are here for it. That's great, but now we also have an opening for Joker's sidekick. Okay, enter Alexis K. She made her comic debut in Batman Volume 3, issue 89. Originally a student at Snyder College, Alexa met the Joker for the first time on a field trip to a TV studio. It was pretty intense. Alexis was forced by the Joker to read a message to the citizens of Gotham. I mean, luckily Batman came in to save the day, but as far as field trips go, that's a lot of trauma to take home. Right? Alexis actually started a podcast after, not to, cope and talk and deal with the situation, but rather she believed the Joker was onto something. She was on board with all of his devious plans. She was diving in deep with all of his past crimes, and eventually she made her own outfit and started to poison the people of Gotham. So many of my friends listen to crime podcasts. I'm gonna start asking some questions.
Number 7. The 53rd World. The 53rd World, named by the smart primates who live there, was a world unknown to the rest of the multiverse. It's set in a near future where presumably the world is inhabited by super smart apes, like Planet of the Apes style. Oh, and also, immortality was achieved in 2067, meaning that yes, all these ultra smart apes are immortal. We know that there exists alternate ape versions of Superman, Batman, the Atom, and Aquaman. The existence of this Earth was first revealed in 2018's Dark Knight's Rising: The Wild Hunt, when Detective Chimp was beginning to lose his intelligence. The ape heroes show up, recruited by Raven, Cyborg, and the Flash to help with the dark multiverse, saying they were here to help. Obviously. Detective Chimp, accompanied by the apes of the 53rd Earth, plus Flash, Cyborg, and Raven, go to help Earth Zero's Justice League fight the dark multiverse forces. That's kind of all we know about the 53rd Earth. I want more super apes! Number 6, Archive of Worlds. The Archive of Worlds isn't so much an alternate Earth, it's actually an artificial multiverse which contains pocket dimensions in the form of film reels. Now that's just kinda nuts on its own, but then take into account the fact that it was created by a mad god, Artur Io, who is the god of tales, who is jealous of the new god of tales, which is the internet. It's pretty nuts. He tried to steal the new god's soul and was instead encased in a Wayne Tech satellite where he created the Archive of Worlds. First appearing in Batman/Superman Volume 2, number 16 in 2021, the pocket dimensions include a world where Superman never came to be, as well as one where Batman never came to be, a world based on hell, a Western world, a world based on the life of Alana Strange, and so many other unnamed worlds. Auteur.io eventually was cured by Batman, and he instead became Observer.io, which is a lot nicer. Number 5. The Linear Verse. The Linear Verse is an alternate reality where the people age so slowly that it's almost safe to say they don't age at all. Batman began his career in 1939, with his youth lasting for decades instead of the normal aging of a human. In a way, this kind of represents how comic book characters seemingly never age and grow old, except in certain stories. By the late 20th century, the world had most of its superheroes. After this point though, things get a little whack. See, Earth became a dystopia ruled by the wealthy, which, I don't know, it seems a bit too real for me. And a great disaster was foreseen that actually came to pass. And the world became very similar to the one in the Earth AD story. Anthropomorphized animals had become the rulers of the planet, with humans devolving, save for Kamandi and a few others. Then, in the 25th century, humanity seemingly built a high-tech society, which saw the rise of Michael Carter, who is Booster Gold. In the 31st century, Earth became the base of the Legion of Superheroes, who were an interplanetary superhero team. This world is just a wild ride. Oh, and it first appeared in Generations Forge #1 in April of 2021. Number 4. The Metalverse. Okay, I know we're going to talk about the Dark Multiverse, but we haven't talked about, and we need to talk about, the Metalverse. So basically, after Perpetua defeated the Justice League, she gave Prime Earth to the Batman Who Laughs. He and his Dark Knights defeated all the heroes and then reshaped the Earth into his vision. Look at this super cool map! He turned Gotham City into a whole continent super city that is guarded by Joker dragons. He made his home Castle Bat, which is another version of Batman who became a sentient Gotham. There is a hell on Earth called the Hellscape, ruled by Wonder Woman. Arkham Wasteland, ruled over by Harley Quinn. A Superman-powered New Apocalypse prison where all the remaining heroes are held. Megapocalypse with a Rainbow Valley where all the Lantern Rings lay because no one is worthy that exists anymore. This version of Earth Prime isn't exactly an alternate universe, but it definitely sounds like it should be. Hey nerds! Just wanted to say thanks for watching. It means a lot to us. If y'all don't mind smacking that like button, it would help us out. And it helps YouTube know we don't suck. Okay, on to the top 3.
Number 3, Monolith. Gosh, I love Monolith's design. Monolith seems to be an ally to the Hulk. Currently, the Hulk in his own series, titled simply Hulk, is flying around space, but is actually the mind of Bruce Banner in the body of the Hulk, with Bruce having taken control and modified Hulk's body to turn him into like a spaceship, basically. Having always wanted to live as a scientist and explore the world and go on cool space adventures, Bruce struggles to see a home for himself on Earth after everything he has done, and so he decides to actually just take control of the Hulk and go to outer space. A sort of self-imposed exile, if you will, but one where he gets to like actually do what he wants to do as a scientist. While on his space adventures, he runs into a kind of planet Hulk that seems to be perfect for people like him. It seems exiled Hulks, who were dubbed abominations in an alternate reality that they hail from, seem to have come to this planet and ended up settling here, all becoming super strong and smart over time. Initially they were basically exiled there, but then they basically just decided to create their own civilization. Monolith is their ruler, being the queen of this seemingly Hulk planet. Honestly, her existence is one of my favorite things about this entire series. She first appears in issue number 9 of the current Hulk series, volume number 5 from 2022. And while, yeah, we don't really know if she's like specifically a superhero yet, I feel like she's leaning that way. Number 2, Wreck Rap. Who is Wreck Rap? Well, he very recently made his first appearance at Amazing Spider-Man issue number 17, where that question is, of course, answered. Wreck Rap is a demon from Limbo who admires Spider-Man, looking up to him. He originally takes the name of Parker Man for himself. He ends up becoming an ally and supporting character in the current Amazing Spider-Man story, Dark Web. In issue number 17, Parker saved him from another demon who basically wanted to beat up the latter named Parker Man. This act inspires him to want to be a hero like Parker Peach Man, and so he sets out to try and get superpowers. In the end, he instead gets a symbiote and ends up taking a new name for himself after he is told that the demon army doesn't really need another Parker and that he had it backwards. After all, they weren't looking for more heroes, they were actually looking for more villains. The name this demon settles on is of course Wreck Rap, because it is Parker backwards. Get it? Because they were like, you got it all backwards, and he was like, alright, I'll have it backwards then. Number 1. Red Goblin. While Normie Osborn, grandson of Norman Osborn and son of Harry Osborn and Liz Allen, is a character who has been around since the 1980s and even became a villainous version of Carnage and the Goblin combined, known as the Goblin Child, back in 2018. He also recently underwent a new change, becoming known as Red Goblin himself. At first, I was worried that Norman would actually be returning to this mantle when this was teased, the return of Red Goblin, and almost instantly, of course, then returning to the side of villainy after only recently becoming good in the comics. Goodness. But it looks like, at least in terms of Red Goblin's return and that character's identity, I was wrong, which I'm happy about. Red Goblin instead returned to us in Venom issue number 15 from volume 5, the 2022 run, as Normie Osborn. Normie was given a symbiote that is the result of the combination of both the Carnage symbiote and the anti-Venom symbiote. While in his Red Goblin guise, he seems to be acting solely as a hero who basically aims to help his friend Dylan Brock, aka currently known as Codex, save his father Eddie Brock, currently the King in Black in his Bedlam phase, and formerly known as the anti-hero, and I would say now full-fledged hero, Venom. Number 10. Orchis. Orchis is by far one of the most important newest X-Men villainous groups that you need to know. If there is anything you take away from this list, this team should be one of them. Orchis is basically the group trying to do such dastardly things as create the Mother Mold so that they have an endless supply of Sentinels to help defend humanity against the ever-growing threat of mutants. Orchis is also surprisingly made up and funded by other organizations, some of which are more villainous in terms of their heritage, while others are actually known for being more heroic instead. Orchis made their first appearance early on in House of X issue number 1 back in 2019. They were created by Jonathan Hickman and Pepe Larraz. Number 9. Horticulture. One of my all-time favorite new villainous groups to hit the scene. Horticulture is a team of extremely scientific botanists who made the decision to revolt against the corporations that they worked for. Their members also just so happen to be elderly ladies. Their plan is to reclaim the earth and revive it as it is dying because of the very industries that they worked in. They aim to take control of plant life so that they can decide who gets fed and who gets dead, controlling the world through the food supply, basically. They also have big beef with the X-Men. Horticulture made their first appearance in the 2019 X-Men series in issue number 3. Horticulture was created by Jonathan Hickman and Lionel Francis Yu. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to support us in other ways, be sure to head on over to our Facebook page and click that like. It really does help us out. Like, follow? I think it's like. Click like. Number 8. Pale Girl. The Pale Girl was one of the first villains we'd come up against in the current newest run of Wolverine. That is volume 7 overall of the Wolverine series, the 2020 series, what I'm talking about here. I can't believe it's been over 2 years since this series started. That is madness to me. The Pale Lady was initially believed to be a hallucination brought on by drugs, but was later revealed to be herself a mutant, Meredith Milley, whose powers allowed her to control the minds of others. It was also revealed that she was the one behind the Flower Cartel, which was illegally transporting and selling a powerful drug made from the pollen of Krakoan flowers. The Pale Girl first made her appearance in the 2020 Wolverine series in issue number 1. She was created by Benjamin Percy and Adam Kubert. Number 7. Hominis Verendi. Hominis Verendi are an enemy to all mutants, but their main beef lies with the Marauders. The Marauders are one of my favorite mutant teams, especially among the new books that we've had. Honestly, one of the best books around, I think, just in general. If you haven't read Marauders yet, you need to do that. Hominis Verendi is actually made up of a group of kids who were once members of the Hellfire Club's inner circle, but they aren't the only ones to join the Hominis Verendi, although they are the main folks as they pretty much run it as the kings and queens of that organization. While the Hellfire Club itself has become much more altruistic and is now run by Emma Frost, Captain Kate, formerly known primarily as Kitty Pryde, and Sebastian Shaw, Hominis Verendi is like their evil reflection. They seek to destroy mutant kind and Krakoa Krakoa's reputation. Number 6. Hyperion. While Hyperion has existed for a long time as a member of the Squadron Supreme, we just recently got a seemingly alternate version of him who showed up in Heroes Reborn, which was intended to greatly affect the future of Marvel's main continuity. This alternate version of Mark Milton is currently designated to the reality given the temporary, non-official number of 852. In this reality, Marcus was not just one of the Earth's primary superheroes and leader of the Squadron Supreme, but also found a friend in non-powered Daily Bugle photographer Peter Parker, who appeared similar to DC's character Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal. Although as we saw from Peter's perspective, he didn't quite feel the same way about his relationship with superhero Hyperion. He was like, Hyperion's a jerk, and Hyperion was like, he's my best buddy. Oh dear. Time will tell if this alternate version of Hyperion will return and perhaps even play a role in the future of Spider-Man, as at the end of Heroes Reborn, in the aftermath shown in Heroes Return, we learned that Hyperion misses the alternate Peter Parker and their alternate reality friendship. Aww. This alternate version of Hyperion made his first appearance in the 2021 Heroes Reborn series in issue number 1. Not to be confused with the other Heroes Reborn series. Just to be clear. Number 5. The Sinister Syndicate. The Syndicate might not be a new single character, but it is a new group of characters that were brought together in the comics. We've already talked about newer characters who are also members of the team, including Francine Fry's Electro and the new Trapster, Hold the E, but the group itself was actually founded by Beetle, making its first appearance in the current run of Spider-Man way back in issue 25. The team is now one of the main competitors in the Sinister War story, despite the fact that they're not actually a Sinister 6 team, they're kind of like a Sinister 7, but it's alright because they're the Sinister Syndicate, so they can still be 7 and be the Syndicate. Currently the team features Electro, Scorpia, Trapster, White Rabbit, Anna's Kraven the Hunter, and Lady Octopus. Number 4. Demog Goblin. Demog Goblin is the new name taken up by the former Demog Goblin. She came to be a sort of reinvented version of that character during the Absolute Carnage event, making her first appearance under this name in issue 1 of Absolute Carnage Lethal Protectors. And while the Venomverse has gone on to become kind of its own thing, it also remains ever intertwined in the Spider-Verse besides. After all, even in Absolute Carnage, Spider-Man was also a main player, as he was one of the few people Eddie Brock trusted during their fight against Carnage and the Cult of Null, aka the Church of the New Darkness, as they were known. Demog Goblin was created when Cletus Cassidy as Carnage sacrificed his love Shriek, claiming the codex located in her spine, and also using her death and body to resurrect Demog Goblin, hence Demog Goblin, who is also really feeling that Carnage love, so yay, I guess. For people that I guess shipped Shriek and Carnage and are like, no more Shriek. It's alright, you have Demog Goblin, basically it's Shriek, but it's also Demog Goblin, but as a lady. Comics. It's confusing sometimes, isn't it? Number 3. Octavia Versis. Within the Spider-Verse, there are of course many different heroes and many different villains. Octavia Versis was one such villain introduced to us in the newest Spider-Woman series in issue number 2, as a new arch-nemesis for Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman. And although her evil plots were seemingly thwarted in the end, you can likely expect that Octavia will return in the future. She was introduced as the daughter of Otto Vermis, a Hydra commander who Spider-Woman herself killed years ago. Octavia, however, is not looking for revenge for her long-deceased father, however. Instead, she is looking to make herself stronger, make the perfect progeny, and have Spider-Woman kind of rule by her side over an epic criminal empire. Fortunately, Jess has other plans for Octavia, but while Octavia might be defeated for now, you can bet this new badass villain will be back, and whenever she does return, I'm honestly going to be pretty scared for Jess, because Octavia was pretty crazy, and probably still will be whenever she returns, and is not a dinosaur anymore. A dino person. Number 2. Kindred. Kindred is both a new villain and an old friend of Spider-Man's. For quite a while in the comics, Kindred's identity remained unknown, and many fans pondered just who Kindred really was, as the villain claimed it had emotional ties to both Peter Parker and Norman Osborn. Kindred first appeared in 2018 in the first issue of the current Amazing Spider-Man series, which of course started off in that same year, and as of the time of this recording is still ongoing. Years later, we would learn that Kindred was apparently none other than Harry Osborn, returned from the dead and now part demon, part tortured soul. However, it also seems that there might be more to Kindred than meets the eye, and perhaps the villain is not only Harry alone, but could have even more identities that have yet to be revealed. If he truly is Harry Osborn, who knows? Number 1. Venom. Dylan Brock is the son of Eddie Brock and Anne Wang, Eddie's deceased ex-wife, and is now a huge player when it comes to the world of Spider-Man and Venom, and just the Marvel Universe in general. Dylan initially seemed to have a powerful influence over symbiotes, but lost these powers following the defeat of Null in the King in Black event. However, he recently has taken up his father's mantle, becoming the new Venom in the comics, after his father Eddie basically retired from vigilante life to take Null's place, becoming the god of symbiotes. And if you're wondering if Eddie's cool with it, apparently Eddie is cool with it, so it's all good. Venom had to bond with Dylan to save his life, and so now we got a new Venom. I'm into it.
Starting off at number 10, we have Forget Me Not. I wanted to start this list off really small, with a character y'all may not know. Mainly because almost no one knows him because that's his power. Appearing in 2014, Forget Me Not had actually been a member of the X-Men for several years before this, but thanks to his abilities, no one can remember him. Forget Me Not's abilities make it so that he is imperceptible in all forms, basically. The power is so good that even Charles Xavier himself had to place a psychic reminder on himself so that he would remember Forget Me Not's existence. Clearly that means some of the most powerful telepaths have difficulty discovering him, let alone remembering him. His power is to be forgotten, but the unique ways this power could be used, and the uniqueness of this power in general, will keep him in my mind. Number 9, we got I-Boy. Why is a guy named I-Boy on a list of strongest members of the X-Men? I see you, like many of the other mutants, are very judgmental. Trevor Hawkins' body is covered in eyes, 57 to be exact, which give him an array of powers that honestly, you kinda may expect. Microscopic, telescopic, X-ray, night, infrared, and thermal vision are all a part of his power list. But he can also detect chemicals, is an excellent marksman, and is skilled in nonverbal communication. He can almost read other people's minds by reading their behaviors and body language. He is an incredible tracker. He can predict attacks and can read people's histories just by looking at them. He can pinpoint weak spots in machines and people, is able to see electronic wavelengths and microwaves, is able to see past illusions and disguises as well as magic waves. He makes an amazing detective, in short. On top of all that, he can even pass what he sees onto others, but he has to be physically close enough for it to work. But to top it all off, the craziest and most unexpected power he possesses recently is solar blasts. We don't know how just yet, but Trevor can emit intense bursts of bright yellow energy and focused beams of extrastellar force that cause sunburns and radiation poisoning. Coming in at number 8, it's Gwenpool. I think Gwenpool has one of the strangest powers. That would be the power of medium interaction, which is because she comes from a reality very much like ours, as in superheroes are fictional people in comic books. So, when Gwen was transported to a pocket universe that recreated her home reality, Gwen's perception of the fictional world allowed her to gain the ability to recognize and manipulate the artistic medium that she was now in. She can see and physically interact with lettering and caption boxes, and touch and even break through panel gutters, allowing her to transport objects short distances through space and time by moving them across panels, and she interacts with different instances of herself from multiple panels on the same page. Now, I don't know if you've realized this, but this kind of means Gwendolyn Poole can kind of warp reality in a way. She kind of becomes one of the most crazily powerful characters in comics, at least potentially. She first showed up in Howard the Duck Volume 6 number 1 in November of 2015, and she has actually teamed up with many different characters and teams, including being a member of the X-Men on and off again. Number 7, Laura Kinney. I know, she isn't really new as a character, but Laura Kinney, or X-23, has become the all-new Wolverine, and that is relatively new. She officially joined the X-Men as this Wolverine at the Hellfire Gala in 2021. There are a few characters with powers similar to Wolverine, and there are even a few who are clones of Laura herself. But of all these characters, Laura is certainly the best and definitely the most fan-loved. Her powers are very similar to Logan's, with her primary mutant power being an accelerated healing factor. And obviously she also has retractable bone claws, only she has 2 in her forearms and 1 in her foot. Well, each foot. She was obviously a clone and grew up being made to be a weapon, so of course she has an extremely haunted past. But with Logan as a father figure in her life, she grew up under him, and she even did the same for Gabrielle Kinney, another clone who Laura considers to be her younger sister. She's already done so much, but I just kinda can't wait to see what else she does as Wolverine.
Number 6, Swordbearers of Arakko. The Swordbearers of Arakko were the chosen sword-bearing champions who fought on the side of Arakko and Amenth against Krakoa in the Otherworld World Tournament. Overall, they performed very well in the contest between those two nations, even considering how bizarre some of Saturnine's challenges and competitions were. Like a fashion show. That was a thing that happened. They were led by Genesis as Annihilation and joined by Bay the Blood Moon, Death and War of the original Four Horsemen, Apocalypse and Genesis' children, Iska the Unbeaten, Genesis' sister, Pog Pog, one of my favorites, Redroot the Forest, Solemn, Summoner, grandson to Apocalypse and Genesis, the son of War, and White Sword of the Ivory Spire. They made their first appearance in the 2020 Wolverine series in issue number 6, and were first referred to in Ten of Swords Creation, issue number 1. The group was created by Jonathan Hickman and Tini Howard. Number 5. Tarn the Uncaring. Tarn has been a major antagonist throughout the modern X books. Honestly, he's so terrifying, I think he deserves to be a villain to many different mutant supers. He's shown up in both Hellions, acting as a villain against fellow villain, who's still kind of villainous but is supposed to be on the good side, Mr. Sinister, and his team of unlikely heroes, the Hellions. The poor Hellions. I miss them. Tarn also fought against Storm, who has become Regent of planet Arakko, formerly known as Mars. Don't worry though, Storm beat him in combat, because Storm's a badass. Even though Tarn sits on the Great Ring of Arakko, their governing body, he still seems like he's always planning something terrible. He's basically like the Arakko version of Sinister, which makes him infinitely more dangerous and overall worse. Tarn made his first appearance in Hellions issue number 6 in 2020 and was created by Zeb Wells and Carmen Carnero. Number 4. Nameless the Shapeshifter Queen. While this villain was pretty short-lived, especially considering how hype she seemed. I mean, she is called the Shapeshifter Queen. She is still a pretty important villain for you to be familiar with if you are a fan of X-Men Storm. Storm has been doing a lot of cool stuff lately in the comics, but one of the most epic things to have come her way has been taking her seat as Regent of planet Arakko and becoming a queen in a sense once more. Region. Sorry, Storm. In order for her to earn her seat among the rest of the Great Ring of Arakko, she had to take down Nameless. The two fought to determine if Storm would take the seat, and Storm actually won the fight. She offered mercy to Nameless, but instead, the Shapeshifter Queen decided to use Storm's power, as she had adopted Storm's form in battle, to end her own life. Which seems to have stuck with Storm, who was caught lost in thought thinking back to that battle in X-Men Red issue number 1. Nameless made her first appearance in the 2021 Sword series in issue number 8. She was created by Al Ewing and Goyo Villanova. Number 3. Severe Blackmore. Severe Blackmore is a new villain who recently appeared in Wolverine. He becomes an enemy to Logan after Wolverine tracks him down to learn more about Solemn. Solemn is believed to have stolen Wolverine's Muramasa blade, which is why Wolverine's trying to track him down. Wolverine and Solemn seemingly team up to take down Severe, but instead Solemn betrays Wolverine, giving him the slip and leaving him to face Severe alone. Fortunately, Wolverine does beat the big Iraqi pirate and even gains possession of Blackmore's beloved and in Emma's opinion grotesque ship. Severe made his first appearance in the 2020 Wolverine series in issue number 14. He was created by Benjamin Percy and Adam Kubert. Number 2. Moira X. While Moira McTaggart has been known for years as an ally to mutant kind, the whole line of X books kind of changed the way that we see her. Way back in the days of Dawn of X within House of X, we learned that Moira was actually a secret mutant herself. Her powers allowed her to reincarnate, meaning after she died, she would be born in the same body again, getting to live out her life once more with the knowledge of the previous lives that she'd lived before that. Moira, upon learning she was a mutant in one of her past lives, sought a cure for her condition, wanting to be normal and to give that option to other mutants the world over that maybe, just wanted to be normal. However, Destiny and Mystique stopped her, blowing up her lab and killing her with fire, warning Moira that creating a cure wouldn't be so easy, and that she was naive to think that it would only be offered to those who wanted it. As such, Moira made other more discreet plans for how to kinda end mutant kind, because she didn't really like it, even though she kind of pretended to like it. By building a paradise for the mutants, that was her plan. She orchestrated this in her current life, with her overall objective kind of being to separate mutants and create the perfect society where they could slowly die out. When Destiny returned, however, she and Mystique saw right through Moira and revealed that she was still, just as ever, an enemy to mutant kind. So despite the fact that Moira is an older character, this revelation of her being a potential antagonist for mutants was pretty new. These revelations came to light in the Inferno series in 2022. Number 1. Albert Carey. Albert Carey is one of the newest villains on the scene and has recently made his first appearance in the X-Force 2022 annual. Here he appears as a scientist working for Orchis. That's right, it all comes back to Orchis in the end, baby. While we don't know too much about him, as he just made his first appearance, he did go up against Wolverine, Domino, and Quentin Quire's Kid Omega. His plan was to do a short burst of tests on the captured mutants after luring them into a trap. He planned on them dying during said tests, but on keeping the data of said tests to learn from, basically. Well, they stole the motherboard, which stored information for the potential devices and stratagems they were testing. Albert Carey, who seemingly ran the test, is confident that with time, they can actually rebuild what they lost, and more vital, they now actually have more information, which opens up new knowledge and possible future questions and experimentation as a result. We don't really fully know what he's up to, but he seems to be testing a new weapon, and from what we've seen of Orchis, you can bet that this is likely just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what Carey and Orchis will have in store. I'm sure we will see him again. We'll definitely see Orchis again, that's for sure. Number 10. Las Espadas Gemelas de Toledo. This pair is a new set of villains who first appeared in Spider-Woman in issue 11 of the current run that started in 2020. There are two brothers who wield magical swords which seemingly grant them great power, but also kind of possesses them. Spider-Woman goes up against both brothers, Ray and Luis, in issues 11 and 12 and seemingly defeats them both. The brothers end up in a fight against one another, where Luis is forced to cut off Ray's hand as he has become completely ensorcelled under the blade's influence, after he wields them both at the same time. It seems, however, that this isn't the last we've seen of the villains. Ray eventually gets himself a new mechanical sword hand, and both brothers swear to get revenge on Spider-Woman for getting them locked up and pitting them against one another. So while these guys only appeared in a couple issues, we're definitely going to see them again soon. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it where we talk about all of the cool Spidey things, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 9. Trapster. Trapster is one of the members of the all-female Sinister 6 group, Sinister 7 group I guess now, to appear in the Sinister War 4-issue limited series. She is a member of the Sinister Syndicate, which is the name for the all-female team and is led by the Beetle. We don't yet know Trapster's true identity, all we know is that she claims to be the new Trapster and that yes, she spells her version of the supervillain codename without the E, seemingly appearing as the new, younger, and hipper version of the villain. I don't actually know if Trapster is ever a villain who could be made cool, but it seems like this version is at least trying to do that, reclaiming the title and the use of the paste gun with some pride, which you gotta give her points for. Trapster first appeared in the 2017 Free Comic Book Day Secret Empire issue. Number 8. Seiya Ishii. Seiya Ishii is like the new arch nemesis of Silk, who recently made her debut appearance in Silk's newest series starting in 2021. Seiya made her first appearance in issue 1 of the series and is the tech and business savvy daughter of Matsuko Ishii, founder of tech company giant Fujinet, and Silvermane, supervillain and crime lord of New York. Seiya has set out to outdo both of her parents, becoming the new head of Fujinet and also aiming to become an even greater crime lord than her father, or crime lady I guess. In the Silk series she plays antagonist to Cindy Moon and allies herself for a time with the Japanese cat demon Kasha. Number 7. Electro. No, not that Electro, not Max Dillon. Instead we are talking about his accomplice turned supervillain herself, Francine Fry. Francine was obsessed with supervillains and ended up becoming the partner in crime and potential partner in romance of Max's. Back when Max's powers were on the fritz and extremely unpredictable, she kissed him and as a result was electrified, seemingly to death. However, the Jackal would bring her back as a clone. When the attempt was made to restore Max's at the time currently lost powers, something went awry with the procedure and instead it was Francine who ended up superpowered. With her new powers, she herself also became known as Electro. Francine made her first appearance in the 2014 Amazing Spider-Man series in issue number 2. Number 6. Black Winter. Black Winter is going to be a huge big bad that will be coming our way eventually in the comics. Likely much later on, like we're talking a few years away. Black Winter isn't actually a completely new character, but has recently been reinvented in terms of their part as one of the biggest bads ever faced in the comics. Black Winter actually first appeared under the name The Creeping Plague back back in the 60s in Thor issue 169. But more recently in 2019, the entity appeared under a new name in Silver Surfer Black issue number 4, becoming known as Black Winter. The entity can take on any shape or form it pleases and is responsible for ending Galactus' home universe. The Black Winter will also likely be the way the current Marvel universe ends. While Thor and Galactus teamed up in the beginning of the current Thor run, Volume 6, Donny Cates' run, to destroy the Black Winter, Thor really only succeeded in temporarily defeating the entity, leaving Thor with visions of a bleak end to come, which includes the return of Thanos. Alright friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn about more of the newest characters that we've seen in the last year or two, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. There's lots of new characters. There's lots more people I want to talk to you about, so please give it a thumbs up. Share it. Get it the views so I can give you the video. Number 5. Yelena Belova from the MCU. Yelena Belova is like the little sister of Black Widow in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, though to be clear, she isn't blood related to Natasha. Or not that we know of anyways. It turns out both Yelena and Natasha were part of a team of undercover Russian operatives and spies who are posing as an all-American family as their cover. They were in the US to gain important scientific intel when they were kids that the head of the Red Room, Dreykov, wanted to ultimately help expand and grow his empire. Yelena was posing as Natasha's little sister when they were undercover. Even after Black Widow became an Avenger and thought that she had actually taken down the Red Room, it was revealed that Yelena actually remained a spy and operative for the secret organization due to the fact that earlier on, Black Widow and Hawkeye had actually failed to complete that mission to destroy the organization in Budapest. Yelena will likely be taking over and becoming a sort of White Widow, if you will, in the MCU. At least that's what I think we're gonna know her as. Working on a team that Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine is putting together. In the comics, Yelena is a bit of a different character. She is a rival of Black Widow's who is sometimes an ally and sometimes a foe, depending on the circumstances. And as far as I know, she's never worn quite as cool of a vest as her MCU counterpart, though she was a model at one point. That was a thing that happened. Number 4. Genesis. Genesis is a pretty important character who apparently has always existed, but who we never really knew about. Ooh, mysteries. She made her first full appearance in the 2019 run of X-Men back in issue 12. We would learn that she is the wife of Apocalypse, who was long ago lost to her husband, who ended up leaving another mutant island nation known as Arakko. The other half, it turns out, of Krakoa. Genesis is a strong warrior and an all-around badass, basically pretty much exactly what you'd expect Apocalypse's wife to be. She also happens to be a mother, as it turns out that Apocalypse and Genesis together had a whole family of strong, also badass mutant children. Currently, Genesis and Apocalypse are back together and are likely taking a little off-panel vacation, as we haven't really seen them in a little while, so I hope they're enjoying themselves. Hope they're getting a time to reconnect, because they've been apart for so long. Number 3. Shang-Chi from the MCU. Shang-Chi first appeared in the comics back in the 70s, but it took him 13 years to make his way into the MCU from when it started way back in 2008. Simu Liu is the actor to take up the role of this new hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Shang-Chi is introduced in his own self-titled feature film Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, where, no major plot spoilers here, no major plot spoilers, we learn that he is a man running from the past, living under the alias of Sean in the United States, after escaping the supposed wrath of his father, criminal overlord Wenwu. We follow him on his journey as he is suddenly recalled home, back to his family under mysterious circumstances, all while uncovering his family's story, history, and the legend of the Ten Rings. If you haven't seen Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings yet, I actually cannot recommend this movie more. I think it actually may have become one of my all-time favorite films, both within and without the MCU. That is just how great it is. I cannot praise it enough. If you haven't seen it yet, pause this video, go watch it, and then come back. That's how good it is. You gotta go right now. Number 2. Venom. That's right, there is a new Venom in town. This one is the son of Eddie Brock and his ex-wife Anne Wang. His name is Dylan Brock. Dylan's existence at first was a shock to Eddie, and it also seemed as though Venom was involved in his genetic creation as well, being that Venom was bonded to Eddie at the time of Dylan's conception. Dylan and Eddie both, however, managed to survive past the crazy summer event that was absolute carnage, where he resurrected Cletus Cassidy as a Grendel symbiote version of Carnage, threatened to awaken the god of symbiotes, Null, who would threaten the entire Earth. While Eddie did manage to save his son Dylan, he could not avoid waking Null, who then arrived on Earth during another summer event, Marvel's King in Black event. With Null defeated, Eddie took his place as the god and ruler of symbiotes, and the Venom symbiote was tasked with keeping an eye on Dylan. Dylan has since bonded with the Venom symbiote, and together the two are now the new Venom. So you can enjoy that. Kids grow up so fast in comics. They don't get to be kids for very long, do they? Number 1. Kang the Conqueror from the MCU. Kang is a character that I really never would have expected to see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's happened, and I gotta say, I'm like weirdly hyped about it. Kang made his first appearance in the season 1 finale of Marvel's streaming series Loki, where he was played by Jonathan Majors. We already knew to expect Jonathan Majors as the character, but didn't anticipate him to show up so early in that role, instead expecting him to arrive in the MCU in Ant-Man and the Wasp's film Quantumania, where he was believed to be the major villain. It turns out, however, that there isn't just one Kang, but infinite Kangs across the multiverse. One of these Kangs was the one behind the Time Variance Authority, or the TVA, it turns out, but now that it has been toppled, this has allowed multiple realities with other, possibly even more sinister, powerful, and ruthless Kangs to spring up. So get ready for some Kang mania, it sounds like. Also, we need a Kang movie, because I want Quantumania and I want like Kang Mania to also be a movie now.
Number 10. Tech On. In this 2021 storyline, the Red Skull comes into a new power that removes the powers of other heroes. Tony Stark uses his technology to create the Iron Avengers. Captain America, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and obviously Iron Man, basically the most popular Avengers, all get Iron Man-like mech suits that they can use to fight against similarly meched up villains. The whole thing was basically a partnership with Bandai Namco to create Avenger-themed mech toys. So it has no numerical Earth number. But who cares? The art is sweet, the idea is original, and the toys are kinda cool. Number 9. Earth 1048. The reality of Earth 1048 is actually the reality seen in the Marvel Spider-Man game that came out on PlayStation, plus its associated comics and novels. Seeing as this game is highly beloved by many Spider-Man fans, including myself, I thought it deserved a mention. The universe first appeared in the Marvel Spider-Man Hostile Takeover novel on August 21st, 2018, which served as a prequel for the events of the game. In case it wasn't clear, this is also the universe featured in Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, and will be the same world in the next entry to the series, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. All the games so far have had fantastic open world versions of Manhattan, some of the best web swinging in a video game so far, tons of alternate reality and original spider suits, and are all really fun. Number 8. Earth 8. First appearing in Spider-Man Volume 2 number 14 in 2017, Earth 8 is a pretty great place. Essentially, it's a possible future of the reality of Earth 65. A utopia where Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy got married and were part of a team called the Amazing Eight, whose members included Spider-Boy and Spider-Girl, Miles and Gwen's kids, Spider-Ham, Penny Parker and her Spider-Mech, Jerry Drew Spider-Man, and an unnamed Spider-Woman that resembled Kraven the Hunter. The Spider-Gwen of Earth 65 came to Earth 8 to ask for the Amazing Eight's help to fight Silk in her reality. Unfortunately, Miles and Gwen were on their second honeymoon, so she only got the Amazing 6 out of 8, but that was enough it seems. Number 7. Earth 2319. Appearing in the New Avengers Volume 3 number 14 in 2014, Earth 2319 is one of the Earths that dealt with the incursions. This Earth had gone through a fourth age of apocalypse, which resulted in the collapse of the Phoenix Eggs, which in turn led to Magneto forming the floating twin cities of Tian, where mutants would be safe. The floating cities ended up being the point of an incursion witnessed by the 616 Mr. Fantastic. An Illuminati team was formed on the Earth that consisted of Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Doom, Black Panther, Yellow Jacket, both Captain Britons, Betsy Braddock and Brian Braddock, Iron Man, and Emma Frost. It was basically used as an example of what the Sidera Maris, which are an army of robots created by the mapmakers, could do after they invaded from the incursing Earth, resulting in the eventual destruction of Earth 2319.
Number 6. Tosin Oduye. Tosin Oduye is a hero that made his first debut in the current Black Panther series by John Ridley. He made his first appearance in issue number 3 of this 2022 series. He is a hero of Wakanda, but is actually greatly separated from Wakanda in some ways as well. He belongs to the Marube Maroubé tribe, who chose to separate from the mainland of Wakanda and basically isolate themselves as they rejected the ideas of many who believed that vibranium should be bended to their own will and used like a tool. Instead, his people focused on finding a more natural approach to vibranium, finding natural ways to temper it, and focusing on flowing with vibranium as opposed to using it simply to do whatever they felt vibranium should be used to do. The Maroubé cover themselves in vibranium tattoos, and this is how they are given their powers. The Maroubé had seen much war come and go during the generations, and their goal was and is to basically stand as Wakanda's protectors when the time comes. Following the transition from a monarchy to a democracy, Tozin was one of the heroes who rose up to protect the new Prime Minister of Wakanda, declaring himself as Tozin, who fights for the one true Wakanda. Number 5. Amass. Amass is one of the mutants who is new despite actually being really old in terms of the history in the comics. In fact, possibly one of the oldest mutants we've ever seen. They made their first appearance in Marauders issue number 4, the current volume by Steve Orlando, not the previous run by Jerry Dugan. This is volume 2 we are talking about here, which started in 2022. Amass is actually one of my favorite new mutants when it comes to their power set and their potential. They can combine living beings into one, amassing and unifying them into one entity. For mutants that join together, this is exceptionally cool, as all the mutants' powers will be contained within one being, making them, while combined, extremely powerful. And I believe that if Amass were to do this with regular superheroes that were non-mutant superheroes, that would also be true, which is pretty cool. You could also combine non-mutant superheroes and probably mutants. The potential's crazy. If they have the right power sets, as we learn in the current Marauders series, while combined, the mutants can even use their powers together to do things like time travel. Pretty wild, right? Number 4. Thea. Thea is another mutant who comes from the very first mutant civilization, which actually existed way in the past, but basically were all wiped out. Their history hidden away for millennia by the Shi'ar, or more specifically, the secret was kept by the Shi'ar's secret society known as the Kin Crimson, who are basically supposed to keep some of the worst Shi'ar secrets secret to protect the Shi'ar and protect the crown. Thea was one of the mutants from the Threshold, the name for their ancient mutant civilization, who had their consciousness, memories, and genetic data stored within a codex, with the hopes that one day someone would retrieve that and be able to free those locked safely within it, bringing them back into the living physical plane. This group was known as the Threshold 3 and included Amass and Crave as well. Thea herself is a time manipulator, with her mutant power being chronokinesis. She and Tempo seem to develop a closer connection early on in the Marauder series. Thea first appears in the same issue that Amass first appeared in, issue number 4.
Number 3. Dreamer. Unlike other characters on today's list, the precognitive hero Dreamer debuted in Supergirl as part of the CW's Arrowverse, making her comic debut in DC Pride 2022 number 1 in August of 2022. The character, whose real name is Nia Nal, has a heritage that is half human and half Naltorian, an alien species. Some Naltorian women have access to powers that come from the dream realm, and the subsequent dream energy, which gives them precognition, astral projection, energy projection, and the ability to travel through other people or animals' dreams, which is an incredibly interesting idea for a superpower. The Naltorian women who can do this are given the title of Dreamer. Now for Nia Nal, she had visions of the passing of the Justice League at the hands of Henry Bendix, the moment that would spark the very recent Dark Crisis event. It's revealed that she is also related to Nura Nal, a descendant of Nia's who is part of the Legion of Superheroes in the 31st century. Whether that will factor into her story or if we will see any time traveling related adventures between the two remains to be seen as Nia makes her mark in the DC universe. Number 2. Circuit Breaker. Jules Jourdain is so freaking new that they haven't even debuted yet. Jules Jourdain, aka Circuit Breaker, is a new transgender superhero getting their own series that will officially debut this Valentine's Day. And yes, that's coming up, so if you forgot, this is your friendly reminder. Or if you're single, sad, and lonely, know that you ain't alone. I am with you. Writer and artist AJ Kaplan teased the hero in a tweet in January of 2023, mentioning the character's use of the quote, still force. Apparently, this still force is like the opposite to the speed force that we all know for being utilized by the Flash and other speedsters. What this means for the trans non-binary hero is yet to be revealed, obviously. The speed force has been used to go so fast that time stands still, so what the still force does exactly is leaving me extremely extremely curious, to be honest. But I'm excited to see what Circuit Breaker does with it when they debut in DC's Lazarus Planet Dark Fate #1 out on Valentine's Day. And in at #1, Dr. Multiverse. Dr. Multiverse is alone in the multiverse, meaning there's only one of her. Originating from Earth 8, Maya was bathed in cosmic energies and was granted the powers of the multiverse. This basically means she is able to see variants and alternate versions of people living in different realities. She can see people and objects passing between dimensions, and she has the ability to locate and track anything she has come into contact with throughout the multiverse. She also has access to vast energy manipulation abilities which let her fire blasts and create shields, but she can totally open up portals to other universes and send people back to their own universe. This former member of the Retaliators became part of the Justice League Incarnate, using her multiversal powers to help this multiversal team of heroes. She's like a DC version of Marvel's Captain Universe, Starbrand, and America Chavez. I think she's alright, so you should definitely think she's alright too, and check her out.
Number 10. Green Lantern Malene. Sojourner Joe Malene is the Green Lantern who first appeared in DC's Young Animals imprint comic, Far Sector. She was created by the amazing science fiction and fantasy writer N.K. Jemisin and mind-blowing artist Jamal Campbell. Jo is a Green Lantern who is unique in the sense that she wasn't traditionally chosen to be a lantern, and the ring she is given is not inherently as powerful as your typical Green Lantern ring, but in some ways it can actually be seen as more powerful. Most Green Lantern rings require a battery to charge them, but Jo's is actually self-charging. Now, this is useful when she ends up designated to an area so far out in space she doesn't really need to be near any batteries. However, it should be noted that because it is self-charging, Jo has to be more conscientious when it comes to how she uses her power, as it is possible for her to completely deplete her power stores and be left without power during a time of crisis when she is forced to wait for her ring to recharge itself. Malene has quickly become one of my favorite lanterns. She made her first appearance in November of 2019. Number 9. Batman. This version of Batman is Jace Fox, initially known as Timothy Fox or Tim Fox, the son of longtime Batman ally Lucius Fox. However, Timothy prefers to be called Jace now. While Timothy Fox has actually been around in the comics since the New Earth continuity, and I believe came out in the late 70s, this version of the character as a future Batman who prefers to be called Jace is actually pretty new to us. He first appeared as Batman's replacement during our glimpse into Future State, appearing in DC Nation Presents DC Future State issue #1 for the first time, at least within the Future State continuity. But Jace has also appeared in the main Prime Earth continuity as well, first appearing there in Batman issue 101, the volume that started back in 2016 and is still successfully ongoing since. Jace, like Bruce Wayne's Batman, is just a highly skilled and trained human who takes up the mantle of Batman in Future State after Batman goes missing and is basically presumed to possibly be dead. Jace Fox was created initially back in the 70s by Len Wein and Irv Novick, but was revived recently in Future State The Next Batman by writer John Ridley. He first reappeared in the Future State continuity in January of 2020. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it where we tell you about some of the best, newest heroes coming your way, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Bolt. Bolt has an untimely ending in Future State where she is a forced recruit of Amanda Waller's Suicide Squad. But fortunately, in the Prime Earth continuity, events have gone a bit differently for her. She made a deal with Amanda Waller after losing her legs to join the Suicide Squad later on in her life in exchange for those super cool prosthetics. But when it came time for Alinta, aka Bolt, to uphold her end of the bargain, she refused. She had joined the Teen Titans Academy and wanted to remain as a hero as opposed to joining Amanda Waller's Task Force X. In the main continuity, Bolt avoids capture and gets to remain a Titan in training. This is also where she gets her codename of Bolt from the Titans Academy. Bolt is an interesting character as, while tapped into the Speed Force as a speedster, she has no other connection or affiliation to the Speed Force family. That is, you know, the Allen or West family. Alinta was created by Robbie Thompson and Javier Fernandez and first appeared in January 2020 in DC Nation Presents DC Future State issue #1. In that continuity, later appearing in the Prime Earth continuity in Infinite Frontier issue #0.
Number 7. Jo Malene's Green Lantern. Sojourner Malene was granted a Green Lantern ring after she was unceremoniously fired from the New York City police force. She became the Green Lantern of an unnumbered sector, with her first main job being in the City Enduring, an alien planet city inhabited by 3 previously warring races. She's tasked with solving the city's first murder in 500 years. It's pretty serious. Joe's ring recharges over time instead of requiring a battery, which, as a trade-off, makes it a bit weaker. It's still a Green Lantern ring though, so she ain't someone to mess with. This non-reliance also proves really useful when the central power battery explodes at a Green Lantern meeting Joe was running late to, taking out a bunch of lanterns and depowering a whole heck of a lot more of them. She took charge here like a true hero should. She has been teased to be taking over the role of Green Lantern. Obviously. Number 6. Jackson Hyde's Aquaman. Jackson Hyde is actually the son of one of Aquaman's main villains, Black Manta. But luckily, he fights for justice, hence being part of this video. As Aqualad, with his hydrokinesis and Atlantean powers, he has been a part of the Teen Titans, Young Justice, and has fought alongside Aquaman against his own father, and has even temporarily stepped into the mantle of Aquaman in one of his major story arcs. He has proven himself capable, if not a little undisciplined, and he, alongside Joe Mullane, Jace Fox, Yara Flor, and John Kent, was part of the alternate Justice League in Future State, so we know he has the means to take over the role. Just like the last two, he is poised to take over the position of Aquaman, allegedly, in the upcoming Justice League. Number 5. Yara Flor's Wonder Woman. Ayla was an Amazonian who left Themyscira and settled in Brazil, where she fell in love with a Brazilian river deity. You know, like you do. The child these two would create became the Amazonian Brazilian demigod Yara Flor. Living in an Amazonian village, they were attacked by agents of the Greek gods, and Ayla lost her life. But Yara was taken to Idaho by a woman named Renata, who became her adopted mother. After her return to Brazil, she gets magical golden boleadoras, meets a human she hits it off with, is stabbed with an arrow by Eros, who she falls in love with, and is taken to Mount Olympus, where she is trained, given gifts, and gets a Pegasus named Jerry. Nice. She's offered the role of becoming Hera's champion, but after learning of her true origins, she refuses, and after a lot of scuffling, she brings some Amazons to defeat those responsible for the de-lifing of her own mother. She has become Wonder Girl, and was Wonder Woman in that Future State Justice League I keep talking about to defend my reason for putting these characters on this list. It'll be cool to see her actually step into the role of Wonder Woman, if that's what happens. Number 4. John Kent. And last, but extremely not the least, apparently, stepping into the role of Superman in the Justice League will be none other than his own son, Jonathan Samuel Kent. Look, it just makes sense. John obviously was a member of the League's reserves before this point, but taking over the role of his father would be a big step up if it is ultimately what comes to pass. The son of Clark and Lois Lane, Jonathan began fighting crime at the age of 10. John possesses all the same powers as his father, plus a solar radiation explosion thing that isn't really under his control. According to Batman, he actually has the potential to surpass his father's power levels thanks to his half-human physiology, which kind of makes no sense to me, but whatever. Jonathan actually became Superman when his father left Earth to go to War World, so he has had a bit of experience, which will hopefully help him if he does become the new Superman of the Justice League next month. And that covers every one of the characters teased to take over the respective roles in the League. A few of these characters are part of the future Justice League, so it remains to be seen what role exactly these few will play, and I may have doomed myself to be roasted in the comments, so there's that. Number 3. Hippolyta, or however you want to say it. Queen of Themyscira, she takes over the role of Wonder Woman in the Justice League in the Infinite Frontiers storyline. Now, Diana isn't perished. Well, she is now, but not when her mother took over in the Justice League. Diana had ascended after defeating the Darkest Night, and with Hippolyta having dubbed Nubia as the newest ruler of Themyscira, she was pretty free to take on the role in the Justice League. It's interesting to see her interact with Aquaman, and the small amount of time her and the number 1 spot got to work together was also rather interesting. As an Amazonian, she possesses pretty much all the same powers as her daughter, just better because, you know, she's been around longer. Unfortunately, this whole thing didn't last very long with the whole death of the Justice League thing. Number 2. Naomi McDuffie. Joining the team just after our number 1 spot in Justice League Volume 4, number 63, Naomi McDuffie is a teenage energy-based hero who was actually sent to the Prime Earth from an alternate reality to be spared from this really crazy villain, Zumbado, who rules over her native Earth. While her powers are unstable and she hasn't quite learned a complete control over them yet, Powerhouse's powers are confirmed to be Omega level in nature, so that's enough to put her pretty high on this list. She basically transforms into a golden armored superpowered form, which gives her a kind of energy projection that she uses to enhance her punches, making them very super indeed, and she also uses them to fire energy blasts. Interestingly, Naomi can also augment magical powers, kind of opposite to how Superman is weakened by them. In her super form, she can fly and obviously has super strength and durability. Number 1. Black Adam? What? That's right, joining the Justice League in Volume 4, number 60 of the team's self-titled comic, thanks to an invite from Superman, it's my second favorite Adam other than myself. Teth Adam was an unwilling laborer back in ancient Egypt who received power from the wizard Shazam, just like that other guy in red with a lightning bolt. What was his name again? I forget. Black Adam actually loses his life, and after his resurrection was no longer powered by the wizard. Instead, he gained his power from 6 Egyptian deities: Shu, Horus, Amun, Sahuti, Aten, and Mehen. Funny how they happen to still spell it Shazam though, huh? And he still shouts Shazam to activate his powers too. Naturally. He also makes for quite a great leader, being the ruler of the African nation of Kondak. However, he hasn't traditionally been a great team player, and well, the whole supervillain anti-hero thing doesn't really help his case either. I'm just interested to see where this goes, to be perfectly honest. Number 10. Earth 3. The post-Flashpoint Earth 3 is similar to its pre-Flashpoint Earth, but way better. This Earth is the birthplace of evil. The mentality here isn't good versus evil, it's more like just evil. Strength is respected more than anything else, with the weak basically being annihilated. Instead of the Justice League, Earth 3 is home to the Crime Syndicate of America, whose members include Ultraman, Superwoman, Owlman, Power Ring, Johnny Quick, Sea King, The Outsider, Grid, and John Johns. Earth 3 was reintroduced in 2013 and has played a part in Darkseid War in 2015, Dark Knight's Death Metal in 2020, and in 2021 it was reborn again in the Infinite Frontier story. Like I said, when we started, the DC universe is complicated, but what's remained the same since 2013 is that some of the coolest stories come out of Earth 3. Number 9. Earth 1. Earth 1 and the number 10 pick are probably the oldest of the Earths and universes on this list. Earth 1 first appeared in 2008 in its New 52 form, but it introduced a whole spectrum of readers into the DC universe, and sales for its comics were through the roof. So I believe it deserves a spot on the list. Here, superheroes are all younger, and they all just started their superhero careers. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Teen Titans, and Green Lantern all have graphic novels that take place on this Earth, and they are all just fresher takes on the almost overdone superhero origin stories. With the characters all being younger, it was also very easy for younger readers to relate to, and gave the characters conflicts that they wouldn't have faced as their prime Earth counterparts. Number 8. Injustice Universe. The Injustice Universe of Earth 22 is the universe in which the events of the Injustice video game and its related comics take place, and it first popped up in 2013. So here in the Injustice world, Superman went a little bonkers. After the Joker tricked Supes into killing both Lois Lane and her unborn child, plus unintentionally blowing up Metropolis, Superman murdered the Joker and eventually became a tyrannical ruler of Earth. The Batman of Injustice creates an insurgency, eventually enlisting the aid of another Earth, Earth 1 of this reality. With the alternate Earth's help, he overthrew Superman's regime and rebuilt the world. And that's all just part of the first game.
Number 7. Photon. Well, definitely an homage to her classic look, Monica Rambeau has also received her own suit makeover recently. Personally, I liked her look with the jacket before this, but this one does seem a bit more practical. I mean, I've worn full bodysuits with jackets over top, and let me tell you, it tends to get really hot really fast. One of my favorite things about her newest look, as seen in her new 2023 series, is actually her hair. I love how it is adorned. It makes it look like Monica has like little stars in her hair. It's so pretty, it's so cool. As happy as I am to see this new marvelous look, I'm also even more happy to see Monica as the star of her own series. She is a character who I've been saying for a while I would love to see in her own solo book. Of course, I've been saying that, and then of course the same year that I decided to take a year off from collecting printed Marvel and DC superhero comics, she gets her own series. That timing. Still, I'm very happy to see it, and I hope that You are all collecting it out there.
And it's 6, Green Arrow. Okay, now this is a bit of a weird one, I will admit, but within the context of the Arrowverse, the Green Arrow does have a new look in 2023, okay? The new look is alive. Kind of, technically speaking. Okay, during the 9th episode of The Flash Season 9, Stephen Amell made a return as Oliver Queen. However, this time around, he was still the Spectre. So the Green Arrow is a totally different hero, but also he's technically a god as well, but like with a couple limitations. So like diet god, if you will. Oliver isn't really dead, they kind of retcon that. He's rather just existing outside of time and space, but he's only capable of interacting with the physical world when the multiverse is in danger, which is kind of interesting as well, since Legends of Tomorrow had an episode where the Legends stumbled upon a location that was being used to film Supernatural, and in the Supernatural episode, The French Mistake, we see Sam and Dean being sent to a reality where Supernatural is a show. So that could have been the same Earth, okay? Since the multiverse is a thing for them too. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? That would subsequently mean that Chuck wiping out all the Earths in Supernatural was their interpretation of Crisis, and that Oliver rebooting the multiverse gave them their multiverse back as well, as we see in the spin-off series The Winchesters, okay? Where the big bad of the first season was threatening the multiverse. So, where the hell was Oliver during that, when those Earths were in danger, okay? Come on. Or were the Akrita from that show just Ramsey's infected cells? Huh? Something to chew on. But yeah, I wanted to talk about I haven't been here in a while, okay? I wanted to talk about Arrow and the Flash. I'm sorry. There's a lot of green that I can't talk about because of, well,
Number 5, Storm. Oh my goodness, I am super here for Storm's new look. Although, honestly, when am I not here for a Storm look? I'm actually trying to think of a time that I didn't like what Storm was wearing, and I can't. But if you feel like Storm has had some questionable looks, let me know them down in the comments, because maybe I'll find something that I don't like Storm in. I doubt it'll happen, but it could happen. Right now though, I'm definitely a fan of her current 2023 look. It's a look that has been evolving since the dawn of X, and even though it is only one era in a long history of X-Men stories and eras, I will say, even in comparison to the beginning of the days of Krakoa, Storm looks quite different. And I mean that in the best possible way. Storm went from having a sleek, polished, modern design to what I would describe now as a more modern take on her punk era look, and yeah, I super love it. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us you love us by clicking that subscribe button.
In it for The Flash. There is no doubt that The Flash has gone through many suits over the past few years, especially with the show having so many different versions for the Scarlet Speedster. However, with the show ending, the character is getting a whole new look in the upcoming Flash movie starring Ezra Miller. And while the cheap joke here would be saying that the new look is actually just the psycho behind the mask, the suits we're seeing in the trailers are pretty different to the suits that we've seen in the show that's been on for nearly a decade. The jokes made in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover were about the actual possible uses for the different suits, with Grant's version making the comment that Ezra's was more protective and that his seemed like safer, whereas Ezra said that Grant's was more breathable and comfortable, which are qualities that seem to be embraced and enhanced in the movie versions, with the two Ezras having qualities related to like the lightning color of their speedster. The blue lightning being more in line with the original DCEU suit, since that version had blue lightning, but the orange or yellow lightning version being closer to Grant Gustin's version, which makes me think that they might have actually wanted Grant in that role, especially given why Ezra Miller was in the news, but I feel like Grant was probably like, yeah, no.
Number 3, Daredevil. Daredevil is currently in the midst of his Red Fist saga, and to match, he has a completely new look. What is new about it? Well, it comes with a pretty cool hood and some ninja-esque trappings, such as his face mask, which also helps him to match with the other Daredevil currently in town, Elektra. Elektra has been Daredevil as well for a while, ever since Matt had to go to prison to do some time. Which also means we have another new Daredevil look, because Elektra is Dee Dee as well right now, which is also still relatively new to comic readers. And not only that, but Elektra is also now Matt's wife. But despite that bit of what you'd think would be weird and unconventional marital bliss, Matt has currently been having a rough go, as he also is forced to fight against other heroes that he normally would simply call his colleagues and his friends, such as Spider-Man, who he actually kinda backstabbed in issue number 10 of Daredevil recently when Peter offered him an olive branch. Ouch. Oh, and Matt also is sporting a pretty wild beard right now, and I gotta say, it's a bit crazy, but I'm here for it. I love how it's just like his mask and then beard.
But ultimately, in at number 2, stature. Going Going from superhero daughter to superhero is one thing, and that's the story that was started in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. However, that's not the only change that Cassie Lang went through in 2023. Cassie was always fascinated by the quantum realm and eventually invented the quantum satellite, which led to her and her family being shrunken down into the realm and being trapped in Axia. Despite her father's reluctance, Cassie was determined to help the freedom fighters and became Stature, using her size-changing abilities to help fight against Kang's empire. But unfortunately, she and Ant-Man were eventually captured by MODOK, which was just, that was a thing that happened in the movie. Oh boy. And were then interrogated by Kang, who threatened to harm Cassie unless Ant-Man actually retrieved the multiversal engine core, and it's a whole weird thing, okay? But Cassie's bravery and determination helped everyone in the movie. But despite her activism, the character was actually entirely recast post-Endgame by Marvel Studios, which caused actually a bit of turmoil online, since the original actress who played Cassie in Endgame was not informed about the decision. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Love Catherine Newton, but given how the character had already appeared, it would make sense for the original actor to figure that they'd show up as them in the future. So yeah, you should probably inform them, since you've already kind of made that connection with them, but you didn't. So there you go.
Number 1, Superman. In truth, I was trying to keep this list not just super family members for my DC points, but the reality is that they probably have had some of the most dramatic makeovers in 2023 so far in regards to DC Comics. I could talk about some of the Titans redesigns, but even then, those outfits pretty much have all throwback elements. I mean, Donna Troy is almost one for one busting out one of her old costumes, although I do love those modernized takes on some of their older looks. When it comes to John Kent though, who is also Superman currently in the comics, formerly known as Superboy, like Kara's Power Girl, he recently received a different look and some changes to his powers. Although he didn't get a full-on new power set, he did get a more blue Superman-esque look when he gained the ability to supercharge, even overcharge, his solar energy stores, making him even more powerful than he was before. Not that he really needed that upgrade, goodness knows. However, there is a cost to using his newfound power stores. Doing so leaves him completely drained, making him basically human for a short while he charges back up. Also, Connor told me that John Kent was another character who was also recently recast in Superman and Lois. So he also has a completely new look on the CW side, as well as Michael Bishop takes over for Jordan Elsass, who left after season 2. So there you go, everyone's getting recast. Number 10, L'Oreal. Not to be confused with L'Oreal, which is a brand. Just to be clear. L'Oreal is the sister of Captain Marvel, who first appeared in issue 18 of the current Captain Marvel series, which started back in 2019. She was genetically bred by Kree scientists who created her to be a powerful warrior using the DNA of 2 accomplished Kree warriors who came before her, one of which was Carol Danvers' mother, Mari-El. That makes L'Oreal Carol's full Kree half-sister. Carol was working as an accuser when she first ran into L'Oreal, and was tasked with apprehending and executing her, as she was believed to be the Kree responsible for a large massacre. Carol learned of L'Oreal's parentage and believed her to be innocent, so instead spirited her away until she could locate the person who was truly responsible for the massacre. After the events of Empire, where the two sisters fought side by side, L'Oreal ended up becoming Emperor Hulkling's new accuser, taking Carol's place. Also, L'Oreal, fun fact, is really funny, and if you get to read her as Emperor Hulkling's accuser, you'll see what I'm talking about. Number 9, Katie Chen from the MCU. Katie, or Ruin Chen, is probably one of my favorite new characters in the MCU, if not just my full-on favorite now, I think. Katie is the best friend of Sean and grew up with him, but later learns that her friend Sean has a complicated past that he's been running from for basically years. And in fact, Sean's given name was never actually Sean, but instead Shang-Chi. Katie might not have superpowers, but she comes with a can-do attitude no matter the odds. We also learn that despite the fact that Katie works as a valet alongside Sean, that she actually graduated from Berkeley, but isn't really doing much with her college degree. Katie loves driving fast and karaoke, a woman after my own heart. Number 8, Werewolf by Night. The new Werewolf by Night is known as Jake Gomez. He made his first appearance in the newest Werewolf by Night series in issue number 1. Jake discovers as a teenager that he can transform into a wolf during the night, no full moon necessary. Jake ends up wrestling with his werewolf form, attempting to use it to do some good for his people while struggling to be in full full control of himself while transformed. Jake is supported by his sister Molly, who helps him by using music, creating playlists to help soothe him, allowing him to gain more control, and his grandmother. Number 7. Zhu Xialing from the MCU. Zhu Xialing is the sister of Shang-Chi, who appears in his self-titled feature film. We learn that despite the fact that her father never felt it would be appropriate to train her, at night she would practice in secret, watching his elite soldiers, known as the Ten Rings, during the day, and attempting to teach herself their movements during the night. Like her brother Shang-Chi, she also became a woman on the run. However, for Xialing, instead of running from her potential destiny, she attempts to seize for herself the role she feels was denied to her growing up. It's likely that the Shang-Chi film won't be the last that we'll see of this new Marvel Cinematic Universe character, and that she won't necessarily be quite as black and white as some of the other Marvel characters that we've come to know, which I'm so ready for. I love when characters have so much depth.
Number 6. Gentle. Although Nezno Abidemi, son of a Wakandan woman and a Russian man, first appeared in 2006, he was only a student at the Xavier Institute until he joined the X-Men in 2009's Uncanny X-Men. Because of his father, Gentle was never treated right in Wakanda, even by his own mom, which is a little hypocritical because, she got pregnant with a dude, but whatever. He was raised at the Wakandan royal court and was sent to the Xavier Institute by Aurora Monroe when his powers first manifested. Gentle's mutant ability is muscle mass expansion, which allows him to increase his size and strength almost instantly. He's done battle with a Sentinel, and his strength is said to rival Colossus, with his resting strength increasing every time he uses his powers. Because of his poor treatment though, he suffered from psychological trauma, which caused him to suffer great pain and seizures. To help his condition, Gentle's entire body was covered with vibranium tattoos to prevent him from overexerting, and they essentially keep him alive, with the added side effect of looking sick. Number 5. Oya. When Hope Summers came back from her future travels with Cable, there were 5 mutants whose X gene and abilities activated. These 5 were known as the Lights, and they were the first mutants since the events of M-Day, making them pretty important. Ide Onkokwo was 14 years old, living in Nigeria's Delta State when her mutant powers of thermokinesis activated, causing her to accidentally burn down her village. She was almost taken out by the military until the X-Men showed up to save her. Now, under the direction of Hope, and with the consent of Cyclops, the Lights began training as a rescue team for any other new mutant manifestations. Idea's ability of thermokinesis allows her to alter temperatures around her, with the limitation being that she cannot simply create hot or cold temperatures. She can only rechannel pre-existing temperature, meaning she needs the presence of heat to generate cold, and cold to generate heat, and vice versa. Oya first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 528 in September of 2010. Number 4. Armor. Hisako Ichiki lived in Tokyo, Japan with her brother and parents when her mutant abilities activated, and she joined the Xavier Institute. She first appeared becoming just a student and member of Kitty Pryde's Paladin Squad in Astonishing X-Men Volume 3 in 2004, and would go on to become a member of the New X-Men after participating in Emma Frost's Battle Royale in New X-Men Volume 2 number 23 and 26. But finally, she officially joined the main X-Men team in Astonishing X-Men Volume 3 number 25 in 2008. Hisako's powers are pretty cool. As you might suspect from her name, Armor can generate strong, powerful, durable, and impenetrable psionic exoskeleton armor around her entire physical body that augments her strength, endurance, stamina, agility, invulnerability, and durability. The power of her abilities are greatly tied to her family and bloodline. So, for example, the strength, power, and size of her psionic armor greatly enhances when her relatives pass away. Which, I mean, if she was a villain, that could go south pretty quick. But luckily she's not, so we're good. Number 3. Bloodstorm. This is probably a bit of a spicy choice for this list. Bloodstorm is none other than Aurora Monroe, only she is from a different universe. Earth 21710 to be specific. This version of Aurora was a thief living in the streets of Egypt when she attempted to pickpocket a man who turned out to be Dracula. She was turned into a vampire and eventually managed to free herself from Dracula's control and find new purpose among the X-Men. Unfortunately for her though, her thirst for blood overpowered her, which resulted in her ending at least both Beast and Professor X, but it could have been more. She was recruited by the Goblin Queen of Earth 91240 as one of her Hexmen, and they invaded Earth 616, where Bloodstorm decided to switch sides and help the time-displaced X-Men Blue team. She was eventually recruited to the team by Cyclops. Now this is obviously Aurora Monroe, and even if she is from another universe, she is still extremely powerful. But on top of that, she has all the powers of vampirism, including being capable of transforming her body into mist and a flock of bats, and using her gaze to hypnotize people into doing her bidding. Number 2. Genesis. Honestly, don't know how y'all are gonna feel about this one. Evan Sabanur was created by Phantom X as a clone of Apocalypse, and as such has a lot of his powers, including superhuman strength, superhuman durability, and self-molecular manipulation, meaning Evan has total control over the molecular structure of his own body, enabling him to alter his form at will. He is able to transform his limbs into various weapons and equipment such as blades and bludgeons for combat, or rocket boots for flight, as well as being able to alter his body to change in size. Evan also has a healing factor that can regenerate from serious injury like getting gashed by Daken's claws. And he can adapt his body to any disease or environment at will, and sometimes subconsciously. Another small, innocent ability Evan has is the potential for virtually any conceivable superhuman power ever. He once showcased fire or plasma breath when fighting Faithful John's mind drones, and also has a degree of energy projection, able to project dematerializer blasts from his eyes and emit energy blasts from his hands. He first appeared in Uncanny X-Force number 7 in 2011, but wasn't on the X-Men team until 2014, and even then, kind of as a student. As the clone of Apocalypse, Evan will potentially develop any of the powers possessed by him, but it also means people do fear him, which leaves him with a bit of an insecurity. And number 1, Darwin. Even somewhat casual fans of the X-Men know who Darwin is, if only because he was that guy who is supposed to be able to adapt to anything but gets de-lifed in like 2 seconds in the X-Men First Class movie. People were mad. And honestly, yeah, so was I. That makes no sense. Adapt to this, shut up. He literally could have. Armando Munoz, or Darwin, was first introduced in X-Men Deadly Genesis number 2 in December of 2005, and he would join the X-Men shortly after that. Darwin's powers are just the coolest. He's able to adapt to any situation, so basically, using his powers, he's been able to grow functioning gills after being submerged in water, gain night vision after being in the dark for several seconds, be able to survive without oxygen when in space, his skin has become fireproof when it's exposed to flames, and after touching Hela, Darwin became a death deity and gained powers similar to Hela, including immortality, Asgardian physiology, and control over life and death. There was even a time his intelligence increased itself to understand the Shi'ar language by looking at it in written form, although sometimes his powers do not always take the effect he wants. Like, for example, during his fight with the Hulk, his body teleported him away from the battle rather than supplying a power that would actually allow him to defeat the Hulk, which is kind of hilarious, to be honest.
Number 10. Starling. Starling is the girlfriend of Miles Morales' Spider-Man. At least, at the time of this recording, I'm pretty sure she is. Starling is Tiana Toombs, the granddaughter of Adrian Toombs, who is the villain known as the Vulture. Tiana's father is Adrian's son, Frankie, and her mother is Lenora. While she often sports wings in homage to her grandfather, she isn't a villain like he is more often known for being. In fact, Adrian actually helped Tiana after her father abandoned her and her mother, and then later after her mother tragically died in surgery. Adrian had always brought money to Lenora to help support her and his granddaughter, and after Lenora's death, he actually offered to become Tiana's guardian, which she accepted. He was also the one who gave Tiana her suit and actually inspired her to become the hero she is today, despite he himself usually being known as a villain. I kinda love when legacy characters go the opposite way of any other characters they're known as being descendants of. Starling made her first appearance back in Saladin Ahmed's run on Miles Morales' Spider-Man from 2019 in issue number 5. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, you can also go check out our Top 10 Marvel playlist for even more good old Marvel content. Number 9. Somnus. Somnus was first introduced in a super cute story that was featured in the 2021 Marvel Pride issue. In his origin story, we learn that Carlo Valentino is actually an old flame of Daken. They met in Canada in the 1960s in Toronto, Ontario. At the time, Carl was living a closeted life, both as a mutant, I believe, and also as a queer man. During a one-night stand, Carl used his powers while they slept attempt to live an entire life out with Daken in their dreams together. His mutant powers basically allow him to manipulate and control the dreams of others, an Oniromancer as we would say, which is how he was able to do this. Seemingly spooked by this experience, having lived a whole life with Carl in his dreams, only to wake up and find it had been just that, a very vivid dream, and that Daken was still as he was the day prior after living a whole life overnight, Daken was sure to leave before Carl awoke. While the two never really talked after this, Daken seemingly never forgot Carl. After Carl passed on, presumably from old age, with Daken attending his funeral, Daken actually asked to have him resurrected, giving him a second chance to live the life that he always wanted, proudly, out of the closet, both in terms of his orientation and as a mutant. Carl took the name Somnus for himself, his mutant name, and would later join Kate Pryde's Marauders team. I also super duper love his design. His outfit is so good. Somnus is such a cool character. Number 8. Soldier Supreme. Soldier Supreme made his first appearance in Jason Aaron's run on Avengers, which started all the way back in 2018 and is still currently ongoing. Soldier Supreme would not make his first appearance until issue number 50 of the series, meaning that he appeared for the first time in the comics back in December of 2021. Soldier Supreme is a magical superhero from the 1940s who also would be trained by the Ancient One and become the leader of the Secret Invaders. Despite existing in the past in the comics, he would be introduced as a retcon character in the present, our present, during an adventure the Avengers had involving time travel. Soldier Supreme is Sebastian Zardos, possibly related to another Phoenix host who is also a Zardos, or perhaps even possibly distantly related to the adoptive family of Nightcrawler, who are also the Zardoses. Who knows? Sebastian was known to have descended from old powerful magic through the witches of Wundagore Mountain. Number 7. Moon Knight. No, not Mark Spector of Earth 616. Obviously, he has been around for some time and is not really new, making his first appearance back in the 70s in Werewolf by Night issue number 32. But you know who is new? The Moon Knight of Earth 818, a hero who first appeared in the 2021 volume of Avengers Forever in issue number 1. This Moon Knight is known by the name of Mariama Spectre. She appears at the end of that first issue where we learn she is part of the team and that an alternate Tony Stark as Ant-Man seems to lead. Tony of Earth 818 calls his team together after believing that something is shifting and that they might actually stand a chance at saving the whole world. Or whatever. Mariama would appear within the first issues of this run of Avengers Forever, and would also appear in some of the later issues in the series too. The first issue of the 2021 Avengers Forever series was released in December of 2021.
Number 6. It's Sync. Everett Thomas isn't a new character by any means, being first introduced in 1994, but while he was a part of Generation X, he didn't officially land on the team until this newest iteration of X-Men. He was also one of the first mutants resurrected by the Five on Krakoa, due to the fact that his powers could enable him to act as a substitute for any of the Five who might need to tag out. With that said, what are his powers? Synch's powers are known as synchronistic power replication. Synch basically produces this really cool funkadelic looking aura that allows him to synchronize with other supers in his vicinity, letting him use their powers unless they leave the vicinity. But what's really interesting is that he doesn't need that person to be completely there. So if you had like a tissue sample from a superpowered person, he could sync with that and it would be enough. Since his resurrection, his powers have been amped up, giving him a limited memory bank of powers he's synced with. He became an official base member of the new X-Men team announced at the Hellfire Gala alongside Laura Kinney in X-Men Volume 5 number 21 in 2022. Number 5. Zorn. Question: what would you do if you and your twin brother developed the mutant ability of having your head become a star? Answer: I honestly don't know how you would still be alive to decide what to do in the first place. Shen Zorn and his twin brother Quan Yin Zorn both developed mutant powers that, in essence, were tiny stars that burned away and replaced their actual heads. They were both isolated, and they both wear super cool looking iron helmets with power dampeners to contain their power from doing too much damage. Shen is called Zorn with a Z, and his head is actually technically a black hole. And to keep things not confusing, Quan Yin is also named Zorn, but with an X. Okay, so what the heck can they do with their powers? Well, both of these characters can produce gravitational electromagnetism, which could actually allow them to heal others and use telepathy, and also, really weirdly, somehow allowed them to sense when people died and speak using shaking gravitational particles. Zorn, the one with a Z, could suck people into his black hole and even turn his black hole back into a sun. They could also both obviously do a lot of damage, using the power of a star to burn, blind, and incinerate people. They both became members of the X-Men at different times. X-Zorn was the first in 2002, but he wasn't always good. And his brother, Z-Zorn, joined more than a few years later. Number 4, it's Dupe. First appearing in X-Force number 116 in 2001, Dupe's origin story is kind of hard to explain, because we don't know for a fact what it is. Captain America tells us he was a US Cold War weapons project, and he apparently had some kind of role in the fall of communism. He was originally a member of X-Force until eventually becoming a member of X-Static. For such an unthreatening character, Dupe is surprisingly strong. He has been described as being an extra-dimensional being with a genius-level intellect, bordering on possible omniscience. And he has a large array of psionic powers, one of which includes controlling Russians. He can change his size and shape at will, allowing him to heal wounds and reassemble parts of his body if they have been removed or cut off. He has an incredible level of super strength and durability as well, with an unknown limit, being able to match and overcome Thor in a fight when he was in a weakened state, taking hits from Mjolnir while he did so. He seems to be able to come back from the afterlife, and he also has a pocket dimension inside himself that he can store things in and summon creatures from. He can also completely break the fourth wall and go across the comic panels. Dupe has defeated the devil all by himself. He is overpowered, and I don't know how anyone loses with him on their team. Number 3. Green Lantern Legacy. Green Lantern Legacy is a one-shot comic from 2020, in which we are given an alternate Earth where the Green Lanterns of Earth were John Stewart, who we already know, and a Vietnamese woman named Kim Tran. Now, Kim Tran, like most of the Green Lanterns, was an awesome hero who never let evil escape her sight, in brightest day or blackest night. She was a pillar for her community too, helping people from all walks of life. And she even helped other Vietnamese immigrants feel at home in this new city. The comic, though, really follows Tai Pham, who is Kim Tran's grandson, as he takes up the mantle of Green Lantern from his grandmother, becoming one of the youngest Green Lanterns at 12 years old. We see him struggle with racism, bullies, his own fears, and against the Yellow Lantern. It's a great story, and it gives some well-needed Vietnamese representation to the DC landscape. Give it a read! Number 2, Deceased. You know how Marvel has the Marvel Zombie storyline? Well, this is basically DC Zombies. That's a bit of an unfair comparison though. The two stories are very different, with the DC version ultimately being slightly more grounded and emotional. In this reality, Cyborg has been captured by Darkseid on Apocalypse, and it's revealed that the anti-life equation lives inside him. When Darkseid tries to take the equation, it is instead corrupted, causing Darkseid to explode Apocalypse. But not before Cyborg was sent to Earth. Once he arrives, he inadvertently infects the entire world with the anti-life equation, which has taken the form of a techno-organic virus. This turns millions of people and a lot of metahumans into zombies. The story follows the survivors as they try to quell the threat, and eventually leave the Earth to settle a new home. I kinda prefer this to the Marvel Zombie story. I don't know, it's a survival story instead of a funny zombie story. I like it. Sue me. Please don't sue me. Number 1, Dark Multiverse. First appearing in Dark Knight's Metal number 1 in 2017, the Dark Multiverse is basically the shadow version of the regular DC universe that resides underneath the primary one. So there are negative versions of the 52 Earths of the regular multiverse, but it was also originally the World Forge, meaning it has so many more worlds. For example, there are worlds born from sentient life's hopes and fears. Honestly, each world here could take up a point on this list, but it feels like that's cheating a little. The World Forger was the master of this domain and created the Great Dragon, Barbados, to destroy unstable realities that couldn't join the Orrery of Worlds. Barbados, manipulated by Perpetua, rebelled and defeated the World Forger, creating the Dark Multiverse. A lot more happens after that, but I can't cover that in a 1-minute segment, so Dark Knight's Metal is an amazing story and it deserves your reading. Number 10, The Wonder Twins. Look, they aren't really Justice League members, but they were interns, which is like part of the way there, right? Maybe. If you watched that video about weird DC multiverse characters, then you know these two. The Wonder Twins are two alien siblings from the planet Exor, who possess some interesting shape-changing powers. The sister Jaina has the ability to transform into any animal, which is a potentially very useful and powerful ability, and it's always pretty fun. The brother, on the other hand, Zan, is capable of turning into water in any of its states, so liquid, steam, or ice. Again, potentially pretty cool, but more often it's not though. And honestly, he always seems to play second fiddle to his sister anyways. The two were first introduced in Super Friends, where they were much more cheesy and did a whole lot of fist bumping. They still do, but it's sweet now. Number 9, Hawk Girl, a classic. After assisting in the defeat of Barbados and the Dark Knights, Kendra Saunders' Hawk Girl was recruited to join the new Justice League as Hawk Girl, a core member of the team. Nice. While not a totally new character, she did have a fight with Barbados, and that gave her this new nth metal fusion power. This gives her nth metal psychoreactive wings that look totally awesome. They can slice through flesh and are able to completely heal all by themselves. She has been reincarnated so many times and has so much experience that she makes an extremely effective and powerful member of the Justice League. As well as her cool new wings, Kendra also has several powers including enhanced strength, enhanced durability, enhanced vision, accelerated healing, self-sustenance, and has been taught telepathic resistance by Martian Manhunter. Unfortunately, she was one of those members of the League affected by the death of the Justice League thing. But that leads us directly into the next 5 points, so that's good. Number 8, Jace Fox's Batman. Okay, yes, I'm structuring this a little differently. So after the death of the Justice League, 5 legacy characters have been teased to be stepping up into the mantles of their predecessors. Timothy Jace Fox seems to be the one stepping into the role of Batman. First appearing in Dark Knight's Death Metal number 7 last year, he actually took on the role of Batman after Gotham became a police state ruled by the Magistrate, who hunted down masked characters, and Batman seemingly met his demise. That's Bruce Wayne Batman. Jace wears a batsuit very similar to the classic, only with a full face covering. In the art for the new Dark Crisis coming out next month, he seems to just have a regular cowl though. He has created a new bat symbol and has teamed up with Jason Todd Nightwing. He also hums to himself while fighting criminals, which is kinda cute, honestly.
Number 7, Tommy Max. First appearing in Red Hood Outlaw issue 51 titled Minutes from Downtown Gotham, Tommy is a Batman rogue that doubles as a sneakerhead. That's right, fashion never felt so badass before. Thomas Measle makes his fortune selling shoe lines based off popular DC villains. His Poison Ivy line was just dazzling the ladies, of course, and no, he didn't make Killer Crocs either. I already checked, I thought of that too. He did, however, use Killer Croc as his own personal bodyguard after freeing him from jail. I think I'm a fan of Tommy because I too worked at a shoe store years back. I'm not nearly as cool as him though. I'm like, oh, 11 and a half? You got it, man. Be right back. Number 6, Frost King. Edwald Olafsson first entered comics in Justice League Endless Winter Chapter 1. He's a newer character, and as you could probably guess, he is a giant frost beast. I'm trying really hard not to say frost giant, clearly. His story begins thousands of years earlier back in the day when you fought with Black Adam, Viking Prince, and Swamp Thing. But he ended up getting buried for 1,000 years in the same glacier that later on became the Fortress of Solitude. Poor guy was just stuck on the walls while everybody was watching Game of Thrones. He's probably so bored. Eventually the fortress was destroyed and the Frost King was released, this time with a hint of Kryptonian energy, which is always fun. Number 5, the Designer. So we mentioned that sneakerhead of Gotham, so it's only fair to bring up this class act next. Appearing for the first time in Batman Volume 3 issue 89 in April 2020, the Designer was this masked criminal who at the age of 60 had earned himself legendary status for being able to plan and execute so many master plans. He was killing it. He also created this chemical that allowed him to use corpses to move around and carry out said master plans. He's got zombie backup, that's cool, I guess. Early on in Batman's career, the Designer would watch Batman take down all these rogues, so he approached them. He talked to them all. He talked to Catwoman, the Joker, Penguin, and the Riddler. They all met at his hideout just outside of Gotham City, and he offered them way better plans. And when it came down to the Joker's desires, well, the Joker wanted his job. He wanted to take his place. So the Designer ordered that undead army to attack, but Joker shot him and supposedly ended his life. Now cut to Batman Volume 3, issue 85, the Designer returns, only Batman finds out that it's just, you guessed it, a corpse being controlled by the Joker. Everyone's using corpses to fight battles, it's gross. Imagine the smell. Number 4, Sideways. Derek James, aka Sideways, came into comics back in his own series in 2018. He was in Gotham with his adoptive mother Helen when Challenger's Mountain returned from the dark multiverse. So the following earthquake split the two up, leaving Derek to fall into the ground, right into a rift into the multiverse. 4 days passed and then Derek was finally able to return, but the question was, how? Derek obtained the ability to teleport through dimensions. He does so by creating tears in space-time. He can literally open the door to a new universe. After a month of having this power, his friend Ernestine made him a costume, cause, you know, of course. And in his first live stream as the hero Sideways, he took on the Tempest Fugonaut, who was upset because Derek was toying with space-time, which, I mean, it's more than fair. Number 3, The Signal. Duke Thomas entered DC Comics not too recently, but back in 2013 in Batman Volume 2, Issue 21. He lost his parents at a young age, similar to Batman, but he lost his to the Joker. So he joined and then led the We Are Robin movement. That's when hundreds of teens took on the Robin mantle, sporting the capital R, and took to the streets while Batman was absent. Nice movement, awesome. Now Duke left this movement because he was eventually recruited to train under Batman himself and joined the fam. Not a bad upgrade. Now Duke, aka The Signal, is a member of the newly reformed Outsider teams being led by Black Lightning. His father was the villain Nomon, but before his birth, his mother Elaine ran for it to Gotham in order to get away from Nomon. She became a social worker and then married a man named Doug Thomas, who wasn't a supervillain. Nice. They both raised Duke in Gotham Narrows. Later on, when the Riddler was challenging the city, he asked all these citizens to bring forth a riddle that even he can't solve, and then only then will he turn the power back on in the city. So Duke was ready for this. He was smart, he was ready to go, but Batman respected that, but he also ended up just taking on the Riddler himself. Since 0 Year, Duke goes by the alias Lark simply because he doesn't want Batman to repeat the past failures with the Robin mantle. It's almost cursed, I don't blame him. He also fights crime during the day, which, yeah, crime happens during the day too. This guy's great, we definitely need him on the streets. Number 2, The Talon. William Cobb made his debut back in 2011 in Batman Volume 2, Issue 2. The Talon is an assassin for the Court of Owls who claims to have killed several Wayne family members, including Bruce Wayne's great-great-grandfather, Alan Wayne. The Court of Owls just may be the villains of the new Batman movie, so let's refresh our memory here. William Cobb began his early days juggling baseballs on the street just to get by, and after his father had passed away tragically while building a bridge for Cameron Kane, he would resort to these tricks to earn some money on the side and then sneak into his mother's purse as well. What a gem. But then one day somebody was watching his act and then he got pickpocketed, so William Cobb hucked one of his baseballs at him, saving the day, and the man offered him a job afterwards at a circus as a thank you. What a weird interaction. He started using knives instead of baseballs to, amp up the act, and eventually he met his love Amelia, back when he returned to Gotham, now a celebrity. Amelia's father didn't like the two of them in love, so he told William to get out of there, he told him to beat it, and Amelia at this time was also pregos. Yeah, so Cobb joined the Court of Owls, became one of the Talons, and then went back to Amelia's house to kidnap his son, and his son ended up becoming the Gray Son of Gotham, John Grayson's father. Whew, a lot of history. Thank you for listening. Boom. And finally, number 1, Astrid Arkham. Making her first appearance with Detective Comics issue 1000, Astrid Arkham, like her name hints, was born in Arkham Asylum. Both of her parents were doctors working there at the time, and her mother, Ingrid, was loved in the asylum, even by the Joker. She's like the cool cafeteria lady. Everyone loves her, Her father, Jeremiah Arkham, was a descendant of Arkham Asylum's founder, Amadeus Arkham, so they were kind of a big deal there. When Ingrid was pregnant with Astrid, the timing couldn't have been worse, however, as a riot began in the prison. It was nice to see because at this point, all these supervillains were protecting Ingrid while she went into labor. I'm talking Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, the Joker, Solomon Grundy, Clayface, they were all keeping her safe. After she gave birth, a rogue Batarang slipped by, and that was sadly the last we saw of Ingrid. Now her father had to raise the child alone, meaning she had to be homeschooled in the asylum, meaning her only friends were inmates. But they felt like they owed her mother the kindness at least, so it wasn't a scary thing. She grew up hating Batman, of course, but that hatred grew even more once Astrid found footage of that fateful birthday. After that, she became a skilled fighter, started a cult called the Knights of the Sun, and went after the one who threw said cursed Batarang. Eventually, she called herself the Arkham Knight.